it is to sell souls.
There is a new price on freedom, so buy into it while supplies last. Changes need to be made. No more curbside baggage. 7 p.m. curfew. Racial profiling will continue with less bitching. We've unified over who to kill, so until I find more relevant scripture to quote, remember, our God is bigger, stronger, smarter, and much wealthier. So wave those flags with pride, especially the white part.
We're selling addictive 24-hour candlelight vigils in TVs. Freedom will be defended at the cost of civil liberties. The viewers are glued to television screens, stuck, cause lots of things seem too sick. I use opportunities to pluck heartstrings for theme music. I show you which culture to pump you.
All right, welcome to the Grift. I'm Reverend Al.
I am Gonzo.
We're gonna have a very special episode today where we have a topic, but it's not topical. Or maybe it is. It is topical.
It is topical.
But you know, we're gonna talk sci-fi, and there's gonna be lots and lots of spoilers for those of you who are not familiar with Star Wars or Andor, who plan on watching it.
Yeah, this was what we were going to talk about last week, but honestly, giving everyone a week to catch up means that it's not our fault if you get spoiled.
Right. Yeah.
So
when we get into the topic in the second half, we'll warn you.
Yep.
And
if you don't want to hear it, you can just listen to the first half news.
Excellent.
And there has been a. Oh boy. There's been a lot of news.
Yeah, let's get into the top
last 2
stories
weeks.
on the headlines here. Trump administration halts Harvard's ability to enroll international students. Just like,
I did not know that was a thing they could do.
yeah, major escalation.
Is that a thing they can actually do?
I mean,
Or is it one of those things where they're doing it and they don't actually have the legal authority to do it?
let's see. There was a big back and forth. They just notified them that they can't enroll international students. So
they're telling a private university who they cannot enroll.
Yep, they got hit with a sprawling records request by Department of Homeland Security in an investigation against them, and Harvard's lawyers have been like, no, and they've been fighting over the legality of that giant records request.
It seems to me that if the administration were going to make the case that they could deny specific student visas to specific students, that sounds like a thing they would legally be able to do.
Yeah.
But a blanket prohibition
Right.
on foreign-born students at one specific private university, that seems like outside the bounds of executive power.
And so what this stems from, in part, is a massive records request.
Okay.
They're two things. Like the DHS has basically requested records on like all international students, is requesting records on student groups, right? They seem to really want to target people for ideologies and political speech in college campuses, and Harvard is a major target for it. And on top of that, the other thing is that the university has sued the government. They sued the administration last month over attempts to impose curriculum and admissions and hiring practices changes over the university. Basically, telling a private university what they can and can't do as far as their curriculum and their admissions and their hiring practices. And it seems to be like an attempt to force our country's most prestigious university to admit more right-wing weirdos and stop admitting black people and get rid of immigrants, and to force them to have curriculums that are friendly to like a jingoistic propagandic narrative of U.S. history.
So they are basically forbidding a university to educate.
Yeah.
Is what they're trying to do.
Yeah, or at least trying to stymie that education. And Harvard pushed back and sued.
Good for them.
And is now having like its international enrollment cut off, which is a big funding source for Harvard. They have a lot of international students.
It's a prestigious university globally.
And so they are just screwing them over. They have students from 140 countries, and now they're being told they can't admit any of them. But I mean, when we get this is Kristi Noem, who thinks that habeas corpus means a right that the president has to arrest people,
to deport them at his whim.
That's not what it meant.
That's
she
not
was
even
asked in a hearing.
And like this is a legal principle that goes back millennia.
Yeah,
like
it is.
It's in general, the principle is so old, it's hard to know exactly when it started.
Right. But it's very simple. It's like it means that they have to have a public reason for detaining, arresting, targeting, or utilizing the apparatuses of state law enforcement, right?
Against an individual.
Yeah. They have to have a publicly stated reason, and that reason has to fit within the framework of the laws of the country.
Right. And that's it. That is a spectacularly low bar.
Right. It's
in that I don't even think I would call that a bar.
Right.
That is a line drawn upon the ground.
Right. And now it has more explicit legal meanings in our system. Like that's one of the things that they're fighting over with the immigration detainment issue, right? Is that habeas hearings have to be the habeas process is basically what they're forcing them to go through,
right? Which
is an extra level of legal hoops, and it makes it more difficult for immigrants to get relief. But that also means that's a step that they get to take to prove that the government has a case, and they just want to suspend this, and that they think it's some principle that means that the president gets to do whatever he wants, and then they're arguing that it's been suspended before. It's like, yes, but with the approval of Congress.
Yeah, like the Lincoln did it, and it was approved by Congress.
Right.
Grant briefly did it. It was Grant, right?
Yeah.
He briefly did it to fight the KKK.
Right, and again, Congress was involved.
In the wake of Reconstruction, Congress was involved.
And Roosevelt, and that's actually widely regarded as one of the more horrendous sets of legal precedent that we've had in this country, which was Korematsu, and the internment of Japanese Americans and descendants of Japanese Americans.
It's one of the greatest stains of the 20th century on this country.
Yeah,
like it is.
Particularly,
it is in the 20th century. It's one of the greater crimes we perpetrated within our own borders.
Right. Particularly because it is a major step backwards in law. Right. Up until that point, we got so slavery, huge, one of our greatest stains ever. Like it's hard to catalog how scale, size, dehumanization, etc. But like the destruction of the Native Americans and their genocide, slavery, boom and boom. Okay. Right. Now we go into the Jim Crow era, right? And now that is horrific. It is bad. It is but it becomes a part of the American fabric. Now we're chipping away at it a little bit up into the 30s and into the 40s, and then Japanese internment happens, and it's a step backwards, right? It is a step backwards in civil rights and civil liberties. The case law behind it is horrific.
I'll say this: Japanese internment would have been less egregious if there had also been German and Italian internment.
Right.
It would all have been wrong.
Yes.
But if the fact that it was only targeted at those of Japanese descent, when you could have put half my family in fucking internment camps.
Right. And and again, they didn't just target immigrants. That's the which again I don't think is right.
Right.
But if your fear is that we're going to get espionage or saboteurs from an immigrant population, right, among them, because we don't have the means to suss out who is and isn't going to be a saboteur or a spy or whatever, right?
Right.
Like that was the original. That was the whole basis for it, right?
But when you had families who had been in the United States for several generations, but just happened to be of Japanese descent, and they were seen as like being beholden to the whims of Imperial Japan themselves personally.
Yeah, that's
deranged
nonsense, and we did that, and that's that makes it a huge problem legally. And
the case law is awful. And we did that for no gain.
No,
not that there's not that would excuse it if there had been gain to be had, but like we didn't accomplish anything.
Well, who's we? And because
I wasn't born. So.
Right. What I mean by that, though, is that a large group of people did accomplish something. Affluent white people in California stole a bunch of farmland and were able to steal a bunch of businesses and houses and property, and a growing, because the Japanese Americans in California were actually not a highly impoverished group, like some were, but for the most part,
you're always going to have some in every demographic.
But for the most part, they were a very successful group of immigrants who came here with very little, right? And immediately, because of culture, hard work ethic, right, resources, started building businesses, building farms, building ranches.
I mean, they largely immigrated here in a time when, like, the stories we tell ourselves about upward mobility were kind of actually true.
Correct. And
in a way they're just not now.
And so the Japanese immigrant population was doing very well in California, in particular. And then we started interning them. And amazingly, their properties were stolen or eminent domained or just outright, like, taken through shady land deals.
They certainly weren't there to fight the deal.
Yep. Forgery or fraud were used. And so they lost a lot. Like that whole generation of Japanese Americans lost everything.
It's real easy to forget that this was in recent enough history that, like, you can just talk to people who were sent to these camps.
Yeah. They would have been children.
George Takei.
Yeah.
A perfect example. Sulu.
Yep.
They sent Sulu to an internment camp.
Yeah. His country didn't consider him American. He was born here.
And less than 20 years later, he was Sulu.
Yep. Like, which...
Just about 20 years
George
later.
Takei.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, you're a goddamn hero. You're
Still
a legend.
kicking it, too.
Still kicking it.
It's weird how...
He's a real one.
He is. Him and Brad, his husband.
Yes.
His husband,
they're
Brad.
so cute.
They are an adorable couple. He is aging so well for being a dude who has to be in, like, his late 80s, early 90s at this point.
Yeah.
He is age. It's so... I hate to say it, but so is Shatner.
Yeah,
Shatner does not look like a man who is in his 90s.
When I bumped into him over 20 years ago, he did not look well, but he was drunk. Right?
I mean, he is Canadian. Technically Canadian.
Like, I bumped into him on a street somewhere, and I tried to ask for an autograph, and he was an asshole to me.
That's everything I've ever heard.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he was not invited to George Takei's wedding, and everybody else who was still alive from the original Star Trek cast was.
Now,
like, fucking gaffers who were still alive were invited to that fucking wedding.
And now, look, I get it.
And Shatner wasn't.
Celebrities get asked for autographs all the time. I understand. But I bumped into him in a place where he wasn't going to be, like, heavily recognized, and he was, like, on a vacation or something, right? And he was just walking on a street, and I was like, oh, my God, you're... And he was like, no, I'm not him. Like,
I'm not him.
Like, you are, you're, he's like, can I get an autograph? He's like, no. And he's like, I'm like, okay, fine. And I felt bad, though, because it was like, oh.
You know, it's funny, like.
You know, I'm a 20-something kid, you know, like.
That character is where his career peaked.
Right.
Like, T.J. Hooker.
I liked T.J. Hooker.
I like T.J. Hooker, but no match. But, like,
right.
The weird resentment he seems to have for his own fandom is fascinating to me because...
And he won't do anything without getting paid. And it's like, you know...
Like, he is... He was in these series at a time when, like... Especially later on in the 70s and the 80s when he was, like, banking off nostalgia for Star Trek, like, the residuals were actually decent. Like, you made good money off of, like, doing TV and having it go into syndication. God, up until 20 years ago.
Right.
Like, up through the early 2000s, that was the thing. So he benefited a lot from that. And he just really seems to fucking hate every property he was ever involved with.
No shit.
Except for maybe Tech War, which no one else liked.
No one else liked.
You're a bad writer, Bill.
Yeah. But that's just, like...
I remember.
I've never got, like, his weird, like, resentment for the fan base and his, like, insistence that it's like, you know, I won't do anything without getting paid, including autographs or anything else. So it's like, guy, like, I understand you don't want to be bothered out in the street. I understand that you want to make money, right? But residuals for Star Trek are huge. Yeah. Residuals for those first couple of movies that you were in are still huge.
I would never do it myself. I understand if you're, like, making an official appearance.
Sure.
charging $25
Yeah, but honestly,
for like a photo and a signature.
Just sell some pre-signed merch.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do that, like, like sell T-shirts and comic books with your signature on it for like $10 extra, right?
Yeah, and like
that way, it's like retail plus $10. You make $10 a pop on each one. That's great.
No one's going to know. Get a signature stamp.
Yeah, but
no one will know if you're just sitting at home. Boom, 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 boom. I had one when I was a notary. Couldn't tell the difference.
yeah, but unless you're like out with your family in an intimate setting, if you're somewhat famous and a fan runs into you in the street, be nice. Like if they're nice, be nice, please.
Yeah.
Like
if they're respectful, be respectful. Now if they're an asshole, fuck them.
yeah.
Like, if they're unusually demanding, fuck them.
Yeah.
You don't owe them any extra normal human respect than you would show any other person if they're an asshole. If they're an asshole, they're an asshole. But if they're not an asshole, like, fucking treat them like a person.
Exactly. All right. So what else we got?
Hard. Well, the big beautiful bill made it through the House last night.
Yeah, the big beautiful fucking.
I was learning some of the amazing things hidden in the big beautiful bill today.
What are some things hidden in this big beautiful bill?
All right, it is
like the Medicaid work requirements.
Well, the Medicaid work requirements, the lowering of the age of a dependent from 18 to 7 for single parents. So if you're unmarried and you have a child, your child does not count as a dependent after 7 years old. For like certain things, not everything, but like for certain things, your 8-year-old is no longer considered a legal dependent.
Such as what?
Things like Medicaid, stuff like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. So basically, is that a way of them redefining poverty and like
probably
and like trying to keep people?
I don't think they thought that deeply about it. I think it was just to be cruel.
Yeah.
Like there are certain aspects of this particular bill where it just feels like we hate the American people, therefore we are going to make their lives more difficult for the sake of making their lives more difficult, just for spite. Because I don't know if people understand, and I know people don't understand the gutting of Medicaid. That doesn't just impact you if you are on Medicaid.
No,
that means like we're going to lose probably a third of the hospitals in this country.
Yeah, so.
They will close because too much of their revenue comes from Medicaid reimbursement. They will not have that anymore. Rural hospitals are done. There will not be any more. If you live in a rural area, you will just fucking die.
The middle class in the United States and the affluent, the upper middle class and the affluent, don't seem to understand how much of everything is fucking subsidized by our system. Like, in general, right? Hospitals. Medicaid reimbursement and Medicare reimbursement, those two things keep a lot of health providers in operation. And the more of them there are, the lower prices are in general. Because again, our shitty ass system costing what it costs, right? You close a rural hospital, that means that the nearest hospital that stays open has to be able to accommodate all of that. It no longer has the reimbursements either, so they're going to raise prices, right? So forcing people into fewer clinics at higher prices affects people like you and me. It affects everybody else. It affects people with insurance.
The county I grew up in, I've talked about it before. I don't know if I've talked about it on the show, but I've talked about it to you. Very rural,
right?
Very sparsely populated.
Yep.
There is one hospital in my county.
Yeah. Why wouldn't there be?
There will probably soon be zero.
Yeah.
If this goes through.
Like, why would there be more than one in your county? Your town had 1,300 people. Your county has a couple thousand. Right?
I think the biggest city had maybe 20,000 people.
Right.
If that, 15, 20. I'm probably wildly overestimating the number of people who live in that town.
Yeah, one decent-sized hospital.
But it wasn't even a good hospital.
No, it's just
it was a shitty hospital 30 years ago.
It's just got to be big enough, right?
It's gone. It'll be gone.
It's going to be gone. Let's see what else we got in this.
They also this is a cute one. They have okay, so this only applies to the federal courts. The federal courts are no longer going to be able to use funds already appropriated to the courts to enforce contempt citations. So they are not going to be able to pay for people to be detained unless the judge issuing the contempt order is willing to offer to pay the cost out of their own pockets if they are proven to be wrong.
What?
Yeah.
Is this
They just snuck that in.
Is this just some sort of way for them to make sure that Congress and the administration don't have to do anything?
Yes. Something else they snuck in
insane.
under the radar. A 10-year moratorium at all levels of government, from like the smallest locality through the federal government. 10-year moratorium and banning of any type of regulation of AI whatsoever.
I heard about that one being snuck into the draft of it. That's insane.
It's deranged.
It's deranged. Like, there's... Like, the companies making these AIs have a lot of existing legal arguments against certain types of regulation, like the First Amendment, right?
Yeah.
You know, but that being said, you know, there are lots of ways that these things are being utilized for fraud, copyright infringement, you know, IP theft, you know, etc. And that should be regulated.
But even something as simple as like being required to watermark AI generated content as AI generated.
Right.
That would be illegal. You would no longer be able to like require that.
Which, if it's in any kind of commercial context or utilized for the news, I think should be.
Yeah,
like,
that's I don't think it's not any infringing on anyone's rights to say it's like you generated with this AI. It has to be watermarked. Like that's
and that's a commerce issue, not a free speech issue.
And yeah, like, and it doesn't even have to be like visibly, ostentatiously watermarked. You can just digitally watermark the metadata of the file, permanently embedded in the source code, and then like you can figure out if something was AI generated or not.
There's a $4 trillion tax cut in it.
Well, and it's a funny thing. All of the tax benefits that go to anyone making less than $400,000 are sunset after no more than 4 years, but the tax cuts for the top 0.1% are permanent.
Yep.
Well, at least through the 10 years of the tax plan.
Right.
So it represents about a $4 trillion transfer of wealth from the bottom 99.9% to the top 0.1%.
And they're going to create a $1,000 deposit, $1,000 deposit going into a so-called Trump account.
Yeah.
To invest in the stock market. So the government is going to be gambling in the stock market on behalf of kids. Like, this is weird.
Which is,
like, this just sounds like a way of pumping money into the stock market to keep it afloat, because like,
wait until they amend it later so you can like invest in crypto.
Do you know how many? Speaking of,
you could just have the government buy all the children $1,000 worth of Trump coin.
Yeah. This just sounds like a way of subsidizing the stock market, right? Yeah. But on top of that, which is funny, so I've caught some commercials as of late, and boy, like everything to do with like furniture is talking about tariffs in the commercials. Like every time they're like 20% savings before tariff, a tariff busting $7.99 instead of $1,099, and I'm like, this is bad. Like that's a bad look. It's a bad look. Now it's
bad policy, but it's also a bad look.
It's also just now our marketing is getting this stuck in this like, well, this is going to be what we do now is hurt our economy. So
speaking of tariffs, our brilliant genius, fearless leader of a president threatened Walmart that vaguely threatened them that they were not to pass on any increased costs due to tariffs to consumers. Even though, like, at the time he said that, it was before the pause in our ridiculous trade war with China when Walmart was facing like a 240% tariff on Chinese goods. It's like, yeah, they make a healthy profit, but they do not make 245% profit. They don't have that kind of cushion.
No,
they base their sales and their revenue on volume.
Right.
That's why they can afford to sell as cheaply as they do and undercut local businesses.
Yeah, I think that their margins are only actually like 16, 18, 20%.
Yeah, they're not huge margins, but the volumes are so high.
Exactly.
It's like, a massive amount of revenue.
The people have a bad, like, here's the thing. Regulating massive multi-billion-dollar corporations is a great idea, right? And limiting the amount of money that they can siphon from the system into a small number of hands is a great idea.
You have to do it smartly, though.
Yeah, but overall, companies that sell actual products and have retail items from the biggest to the smallest aren't raking in large piles of cash for every item that they sell.
No.
Like, on our day to day, our typical margin for the company I own, you work for, 16%, right? Like some months it's like 8. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's
not huge.
It's not
huge margins.
Walmart is also in that zone. They just have volume because they're big.
And it's easy to forget every single company with a physical location's operating costs.
Yeah.
Like
rent,
electricity, water,
insurance.
Insurance is insane.
Insurance is absolutely insane. Like liability insurance is
Didn't the liability insurance like double year over year?
Like my insurance costs 1.5% of gross. Like that's a penny and a half out of every dollar.
Not net.
That is just
gross
to ensure so that there's no slip and falls or a fire in my establishment. Like it's out of line. But yeah, no, they're gutting clean energy in this thing. There are so many bad things hidden in this stupid bill.
It is a full bore assault on every single thing that is still passably decent about this country.
Yeah.
Like they're coming for everything. And even they know it's not popular. And here's the real frustrating part. And this is it passed by a vote of it was like 217 to 215, I think it passed. It would have probably failed if since the start of this session 3 fucking Democrats in the House hadn't died of old age.
Yeah.
These are people who ran for re-election in November who are fucking dead now from old age.
I'm not inherently an ageist. Like I believe that governing does take skill and experience, right? So I'm not saying that somebody who, works as a teacher or an attorney for 20 or 30 years and then goes into politics and becomes a city council person for 10 years and then runs for Congress after that, right? So now they're in their 60s, 70s, right? Like is running for Congress. Like, okay, happens. But if you are unhealthy, unwell, getting up there, right? Maybe don't. Right?
Maybe don't.
Maybe don't. Maybe only stay in Congress 2 or 3 sessions or 2 or 3 terms and then retire.
You're a popular incumbent who's getting up there in years. Fucking pick a successor who you can who's just endorse and use as part of passing your legacy on to them.
They don't have to be under 40 if you want it. If you still want to give it to an old guy, just give it to somebody who's 55.
Yeah, you can always be like,
find a successor who's in their fucking 50s.
You just say, hey, this is someone who I think represents the values that I have tried to represent my constituents by. I think my constituents should support this person too. Yep.
We had too many people who are having to retire because of cancer.
Yeah,
dying
in office because of cancer.
Yeah, they know they're sick. They know they're not well.
Jerry Connolly was actively dying when he became a ranking member of the House Oversight Committee,
and they screwed AOC out of it.
And then when he announced he was stepping down, and they had a chance to probably put Jasmine Crockett in that position, they screwed her out of it.
Yeah. I am
for another 70-year-old.
The problem with Democrats is, I mean, it's long, it's deep, and it's wide, but I really want to go at them. I'm sick and fucking tired of this party in general. Not every member, not every apparatus, just the upper middle class aligned, status quo biased, aging pieces of shit that constantly want to operate out of positions of fear, right? Believe that things aren't a meritocracy but are a fucking tenure system, right?
Yeah.
Like
that, they've been here long enough. You've earned this.
Yeah, that is insane to me. Yeah. It is you just being in there for a while and being loyal for long enough doesn't cut it. This is politics.
And
this is leadership, and they should have leadership and political instincts and reach out to people and do things for people and not for their jobs. And they keep doing this shit.
I was on TikTok the other day, and I saw this interesting take from a creator who actually had worked himself on Jerry Connolly's re-election campaign.
Okay.
He lives in Jerry Connolly's district. It was his representative. And he was talking about how that particular generation of Democrats, your Pelosi's, your Schumer's, your Connallys, those guys, because they first got into politics in the mid to late 80s.
Right.
It created this perception where the only way the Democrats could get a win was by not losing as much as they might have otherwise. So they've created this pathology where not losing as much as you could have is seen as a victory. So they haven't really been encouraged or have the forethought to have a positive plan for what they want to do when they're in power, which is why they're so fucking ineffectual when they do get a slim majority in a way that the Republicans fucking dog walk all over them when they get one.
Which is insane again to me because, they came into leadership and power and joined politics at the time when Tip O'Neill existed, right?
Yeah.
Now, I can say what I want about, like him, hate him, whatever, right? The man knew how to wield power.
Yeah.
Right?
He knew how to get his party on the same fucking page.
He knew how to get his party on the same
even if
fucking
they didn't
page.
all agree.
And also, the Democrats, while they were having a hard time with the presidency because of national politics and, they basically needed a charismatic leader in order to get them to the fucking White House, right?
Right.
And national politics being against them. Like, all the local politics and the way that the House worked, right? The Democrats were dominant in the House for decades, right? Decades.
There was...
They had way more seats, and so Tip O'Neill was able to maintain strong majorities throughout Reagan's entire presidency.
Yeah.
Right? Like, all 8 years of it.
It's why Reagan's presidency, while disastrous, was not as disastrous as it very easily could have been.
Exactly.
Like, the problems that we are having now are problems we could have been having 40 years ago.
Yeah. And
if he had just the unchecked authority to do what he wanted to.
Yeah. And instead, these assholes all think that it's seniority based for their leadership and where they're going to go next. They don't want to rock the boat too much. They're constantly trying to target this mythological middle that doesn't exist nationwide. And they're trying to do it nationally. And that's like, if you want to do it because you're in a purple state, right?
Right.
And you're a congressman in a purple state, and in a purple district in a purple state, right? And you want to play to the middle, okay? You want to give up on a couple of conservative talking points and be that person for that district.
For your constituents.
For your constituents. If that gets you wins, sure. Okay.
And that's
as
the
long
thing.
as you're a reliable vote 80-90% of the time, like, I'll give you the other 20%.
And
right?
also something that it feels like the Democrats fail to understand, that the Republicans definitely understand, is like, what you say, you can have a stated conservative position on the campaign trail to get elected that you don't necessarily govern by.
No. Yeah.
You see a lot of Republicans in purple districts win seats by acting like they're not salivating lunatics.
Yeah.
And then the instant they're in the House, they are, in fact, salivating lunatics. And you know what happens? They get reelected.
Yeah.
Because they're incumbents.
A bunch of them, created some daylight between them and Trump last time around, right? And they're still in office.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, remember, the guy did well on the national stage twice-ish, right? But it's complicated. And he's never been good at bringing people with him, right? So he doesn't have, like, tailcoats to hold on to. It doesn't drag people over the finish line.
Nor does he want them.
Yeah, and when he does endorse candidates, they do badly. Like, I think his personal preference probably would have been to have had the Democrats have the House and the Senate this second term, so he could just blame them for him not being able to get anything done. Yeah.
And then he could have just done nothing, blamed them for everything. The country, under the policies that we already had from Biden, probably would have done pretty well, and he would have been given credit for that.
Yeah, I'm actually mostly impressed by the fact that he's done so much that is counterintuitive to the things that if he had just left them alone that Biden put into place, right? Like he could have reaped the benefits of.
And I think that points to the fact that he's not really the president. He's not the one making the decisions. He's not the one writing the policies. You can see that during his massive little press events when he's doing signing executive orders, and he has to be told what every executive order is. He doesn't seem to understand what he's signing. He's just happy to be there signing it because it's people like Besant and Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon and Russell Vought who are actually like making all of the decisions and enacting all of the policies. Trump is barely a figurehead at this point. J.D. Vance probably has more actual input on policy than Trump does.
Right
now. And J.D. Vance is fucking useless. He's a Catholic. The Pope hates. Two popes have hated this Catholic man. And popes don't go around hating people often. They're not, like, the church is fucked up, but your popes tend not to be hate-fueled monsters personally.
Right.
Like, they you know, especially when you got, like, a fucking Jesuit, an Augustinian.
Oh, hey, did you see the shooting in D.C.?
I did last night.
Yeah,
right now.
so...
two embassy workers, I believe.
Two embassy workers.
They were a couple.
Yep, they were Israeli.
Yeah.
According to the report I'm reading, apparently the shooter yelled "Free Palestine."
Probably not helpful.
Then again, I want to say it. I don't think Israelis should be safe anywhere in the world. Israeli government officials,
the Israeli government,
be it embassy workers, be it their military, right? I don't think that they should be. I'm sorry, but that government I see as legitimate as the Nazi Party, and whatever happens to a Nazi happens to a Nazi.
There is no organization that has put Israelis in particular and Jews more broadly at risk than the Israeli government.
Right. Don't harass Jewish people for being Jewish, but Israeli government officials are fair game, and it's morally justifiable to do whatever you do to them. And so whoever shot these guys, hero.
And I know, I personally, out of the Jewish folks that I know, I don't know a single Zionist.
No, not anymore. I knew a couple. They all went off the rails.
I'm sure that like the exceptionally few Jewish people I knew in my hometown, all like 4 of them, I'm sure that they were very much that like, well, Israel has a right to exist and defend itself type of Zionist.
Right.
I don't know that they were like the expansionist, we deserve to have all this land and we can take whatever we want from whoever we want whenever we want because our ancestors were here 3,000 years ago Zionists.
What has upset me is that I keep seeing that grow from people who were otherwise in the former camp, right? And that's upsetting. Now, the justifications for it, I keep hearing, like, ethically and morally bother me. Like, the concept that you need an oppressive ethno-state that's removing an indigenous population because the Holocaust happened 80 years ago.
You know,
like,
not especially
that's a bad justification. It's like, okay, I understand that there's a cultural trauma happening in your religious group, right?
Yeah.
An ethno group. I get it. A collective trauma that happened. But that doesn't justify or excuse the idea that you get to do it on a smaller scale to another population so that you can create a fortress nation for your own people.
And it would be like horrific. If you were interested as the Israeli government in doing so, you could, by being friendly to even those neighboring Arab states that had historically like tried to attack you, if you had been like, if you were to really try to open up diplomatic relations with them and really try to like come to some sort of accord with them, you could then create a situation where those parts, like say you had a group that was like militantly violent, they could be ostracized and have less impact.
That's where it gets actually tricky. So you're right and wrong. By that I mean that one of the things, like if you caught the recent reporting that one of Hamas's large motivations was actually to stall Saudi normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia. So October 7th, one of their motivations was that normalization was happening and they were in diplomatic talks, right? And Hamas wanted to put an end to that because one of the pieces there, one of the reasons that there's so much hostility between the neighboring states and Israel isn't it. A lot of it in some of the rhetoric is about ethnicity and religion, but it really isn't. It's over the Palestinian question.
No, because it's
right.
And
so normalization always means that the Palestinian, it's basically whether or not the population of Saudi Arabia cares whether or not their government throws the Palestinians under the bus or not. Right? That's what causes normalization. So the Egyptian population, for the most part, has stopped caring about Palestinians, right? That's why there's so much normalization going on between the two of them. But they start to care
the
when
Egyptians also get a sweet deal from us.
Yes. But so all this
thanks. That was Kissinger, right?
Yeah. Normalization is constantly seen as a loss for the Palestinians because the pressure from outside is in part, at least, on behalf of the Palestinian population, right? And by giving up that ground, it's dangerous for them, which I get. Like it's the only thing keeping the Israelis from going full hog and annihilating all of the Palestinians right now is that they could start a war with its neighbors. Yeah. Right? Like,
and no one likes to talk about this, but historically, we've been a mitigating factor. I mean, we don't do it publicly. We don't do it loudly, but
right.
There's a lot of back channel pressure that you don't see.
Ooh. Piece of good news on a different topic.
Oh, what happened?
U.S. Supreme Court blocks public funding for Oklahoma religious charter schools.
It was a 4-4 decision. Amy Coney Barrett recused herself because, unlike, I don't know, 2 other people I could name on the court, she has at least some goddamn judicial principles.
Right.
So it was a 4-4 decision. 4-4 decision. Tie goes back to upholding the state court decision. So Oklahoma State Court said, you can't do that.
Yep.
Supreme Court agreed. You can't do that. And that's huge going forward. That because that's precedent now, and it hurts every single one of those religious affiliated charter schools who's desperately trying to get public funding from being able to do so. It puts some serious roadblocks in the way. I'm not convinced they still won't be able to pull it off.
Right.
But
it's
it
going to
makes
depend
it harder.
on state law to a big degree.
But I mean, the fact that this was an Oklahoma case, like...
Speaking of insane thing, Oklahoma case, like, great. I'm thankful. So thank you, Supreme Court. Speaking of insane things, with the fucking South African president is praised for staying calm during Trump's Oval Office ambush. Yeah, that was unhinged.
That was more deranged than the meeting with Zelensky.
Yeah. Like, I hear there's a genocide happening. What do you? I hope you have something to say for you. What?
Apparently also, like, one of the photos that he showed of the genocide was actually taken in the Democratic Republic of Congo about something entirely unrelated. It's interesting that
how do you get photos of dead white people in the DR? DRC doesn't have white people. Except for those few Belgians that stuck around.
They probably had it coming.
Yeah,
those white people probably had it coming.
I mean, look. There's not a white genocide going on in South Africa, but...
No, there's not a white genocide going on anywhere. But that's never happened.
But if there were, again, crack a history book before you judge.
As it stands, it feels like we're just going to carve out part of Northern Virginia to make new Rhodesia in the United States.
I think Northern Virginia would actually appreciate that, wouldn't it? Like
Parts of it.
Yeah.
Parts of it.
So Chrissy Nome floating the idea that we have a game show for citizenship.
Yeah, they've she's apparently they've been talking to the producers of Duck Dynasty because shocking, it's the producers of Duck Dynasty, and the plan would be to have contestants engage in challenges based on like the local customs of the part of the country they would be immigrating to. So they might do like log rolling in the Pacific Northwest or clam digging in Massachusetts. Competitive clam digging and then another part of the proposal was that they could have residents from that state calling in like it's American Idol to determine which one of these potential immigrants that they wanted as part of their community.
Everything about this is over.
It's like,
all right, also I want to that's how hokey is. All right, okay, so every state,
it's tacky and it's evil.
Yeah, and also it's so yokelish. All right, every state has a few things that like it's kind of known for, like as far as like outdoor activities and like fishing, farming, whatever. Right? It has these and the local sports, whatever. Like this like piece of Americana to it, right? But it's yokel shit. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's and I don't mean local. I mean yokel.
Yokel
I mean
with a Y.
With a Y. Like every state in this country has cities, right?
Yeah.
The people who live in them don't
do yokel shit.
Don't do yokel shit, or they occasionally do it when they're visiting relatives. Or,
I mean, yeah, sometimes,
like, or they're on vacation, right?
And like, and we say that living in Florida, where it's like it's easy to just go 30 miles outside of town and have yokel shit to do right there.
Yeah,
like,
and I'll do it if I want to.
I could stop recording here and go do yokel shit this afternoon.
We could go on an airboat today if we wanted to.
I don't want to.
I don't want to do a swamp tour on an airboat, but I could. I could go check out big gators and a guy who's going to play with them and feed him marshmallows out of his own mouth.
Yeah.
I can do that if I so choose. It exists and it's not far from me.
It's not a physical challenge to get citizenship, though.
Yeah, right. And it's also
are we gonna have like migrants wrestling alligators and then having the people of Florida vote on which one of these migrants wrestling fucking alligators we want to live in our state? What are you talking about?
And out of the 900,000 people that live in our county, like 8,000 of them would go out and do that shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and yeah, like everybody here may want to fucking take a fucking airboat ride once in their life just to say they've done it, even because I know people who were born and raised here in Florida have never done any of the Florida yokel shit.
Yeah,
right?
Same.
So they may want to go do it once, like, but nobody does it. And I've lived in 9 states. Like, yokel shit, like, it exists everywhere. It's fun. It's interesting. It's like one of those, like, hey, we've got that. Nobody does it.
Nobody does it. It's like, are you gonna have like immigrants banging their cousins in West Virginia to see how they fit in there? Like, what?
Coal mining and fucking fly fishing on creeks? Is that what's gonna happen? Like,
in Oklahoma is going to be like have a competition of who can like commit the best hate crime against a gay. Like, is that what you're gonna do? Like,
I mean, they do have noodling. You know what noodling is?
Oh, I know what noodling is. Right, so I got a whole documentary about noodling over there on my my DVD shelf somewhere.
That's fucking why?
Because it's
like here I was about to be like, I know some shit about Oklahoma.
Here's
and
why.
You're like, I've got a documentary.
Here's
fuck
why.
You.
It was directed by a guy named Bradley Beasley, who was also the guy who directed basically every Flaming Lips music video because he's friends with the band. They did the soundtrack. They did an original soundtrack for his documentary about noodling because they're from Oklahoma City.
Okay.
So that's how I know that. That's how I've seen it in a theater.
That's amazing. I mean, here I had some, hey, I know some shit about Oklahoma here, and you just, fuck you. Fuck you for that.
It's over there on the bike.
I had something.
I have that.
Stole my fucking thunder.
I have that documentary. I have the documentary that he made about the Flaming Lips, and I have the movie that Wayne made about the first Christmas on Mars that I'm actually in.
Okay.
My head was replaced with a vagina. I am a vagina in a marching band.
Excellent. That's I don't. Well,
In the credits. If I really wanted it, I could get my own IMDb page with just that one credit.
can you get a SAG card?
No, because I was an unspeaking
Oh.
marching vagina, but I had a French horn that shot lasers
Nice.
and a vagina for a head. Well, labia really.
Maybe like,
The whole labia minora and majora.
did they have a did you have a visible clitoris?
Yeah, they were actually very anatomically correct. They put these buckets on our heads and then digitally replaced them
Nice.
in post with
anatomically correct.
full bush, like bush, a little halo of bush.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Everything about that is awful, but I love it.
it's not a. It's a pretty quick shot, but I can point out which vagina I am in the crowd.
That's me.
It's
You're
me.
like
It
you're
took
like the
us-
Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Like, oh,
You're gonna. Let me say this. It is maybe a 10 to 15 second shot in the final film. 9 hours to film that
yeah.
in the fucking
Wow.
on a fucking dirt pile in Oklahoma, outside of Oklahoma City.
And you went there to film that?
I was passing through Oklahoma City, and a friend of mine told me they were looking for extras that day, so we just showed up. They put me in a marching band suit that they had borrowed from one of the local schools.
Nice.
We all picked up whatever instrument we thought was interesting, and we just marched toward the camera. And we wore these white buckets on our heads that had like this field of vision like this big. You couldn't see any peripheral vision, so you had like. They were trying to like make us march in formation, but you couldn't see anything on either side of you. So we all had to like figure out like how big our steps were and like step in time to march in a line so it wasn't all fucked up. And we couldn't see a thing. And then they digitally replaced the buckets with vulvas.
Nice. Everything about that is great and awful at the same time.
That was let me see, early September 2005 because it was right after Katrina.
Oh wow.
It was when I was moving to Austin.
Nice.
I didn't stay in Austin because you know what happened after Katrina? There were no fucking jobs in Austin, Texas, because that was the first major city that wasn't wiped off the goddamn map by the
Yeah.
storm. You couldn't
Bad
even
time
get
to move to Austin. Yeah.
you couldn't even get a fast food job.
I'm
It
sure,
was
like,
it was bad.
New Orleans was wiped out, and it was, and the parts that were hit by it were all low wage.
I ended up with a super part-time, like 9 hours a week job at a reprographics place that a buddy of mine managed. He
Wow.
like gave me what few hours he could back then, and eventually I just like, after I blew through half my savings, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to Florida where my parents live.
Fair.
I had a full-time job in less than 3 days.
Yeah,
Moving here in
things are
2006.
very different between those.
I moved here December 23rd, 2005. I had full-time employment by January 3rd
Nice.
as a real estate photographer until the real estate market completely collapsed in 2008. We held on until 2009, early 2009.
Yeah.
It was like February, like right before my birthday in 2009, February of that year.
I mean, it takes a
The
couple of
place
months
went
for the
under.
collapse to hit the economy
Yeah.
every time because it happened at end of 08. It was an election, middle of the election.
Middle of the election. So
But,
yeah,
you know.
and then I was unemployed for almost 2 years.
Oof, rough.
Although that was also back when like collecting unemployment meant just going to a website and saying yes, checking a box that said you looked for work that week.
Right.
There was no verification, and they just gave you $275.
Yeah, I was on unemployment briefly back after in that time period, off and on a couple times. Like I collected it like 3 times because things just kept being up and down,
Yeah.
and then the 08 crash. Yeah, so it was easier though, and Minnesota paid way better.
Speaking of that part of the country and court rulings, our boy Matt Kaczmarek,
Oh,
Fifth Circuit, has ruled that it is perfectly legal for employers to discriminate against any LGBTQ employees.
on the basis of what?
Sexual orientation and gender identity.
So
He just said-
so prior Supreme Court precedent and explicit statutory language don't count.
For employment, yes. That is what he said.
I hate Bernie Kaczmarek.
Yeah, I'm not a
Is it
fan.
Matt?
It's
It's
Matt
Matt
Kaczmarek.
Kaczmarek,
Speaking of Bernie, though, fucking Bernie went on the goddamn Andrew Schultz podcast.
Okay.
And man, look, I supported him in 2 primary elections. Fuck Bernie Sanders.
What do you do?
He was just doing that whining about, like, I was like, the Democratic establishment like prevented me from blah 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 blah, and he said there was no such thing as Bernie Bros. They made that up. It was all a lie to make me look bad, and it was just bullshit.
I met those guys.
And here's the thing.
I ran into them constantly. I knew people who were like that in person. They were so bad that they turned people off from him. Like,
I hate to relitigate the 2016 Democratic primary.
It was a decade ago. Get over it.
You know why Bernie lost?
He didn't run a shadow campaign. He got in late.
Here's the thing. He had a lot of appeal to a certain segment of voters, none of whom were Democratic primary voters.
Yeah.
None of whom would, like, fucking bite the goddamn bullet and just register as a Democrat to vote in a fucking primary.
Yeah.
Do I like the Democratic Party? No. I dislike the Democratic Party almost as much as I dislike the Republican Party. But when I moved here and I'm like, well, I want to be able to vote in primaries, I've been a fucking registered Democrat since 2006.
Yeah,
just for the privilege of voting in the goddamn primaries.
Yeah, except for the brief window of me being a libertarian, a registered libertarian. Like I've been a registered Democrat most of my adult life, so I can vote in primaries.
Yeah,
and
you know what else that means?
Get on the mailing list.
That means if I go to a meeting of the Pinellas Democratic Party, and I start yelling at them, I have almost 20 years history as a registered Democrat backing up my complaints.
Right.
They're like, oh, he's a Democratic voter. He's been a registered Democrat since 2006. We should probably take what he says more seriously than the guy who will not register to be a party member, who shows up at a meeting and starts complaining about the party's policies and
There
tactics.
are things that can be said about the Democratic establishment preferring Clinton over Sanders.
Yeah,
Sure.
of course they did.
Of course they did. But 1, that's the game. 2, they don't control the votes, right? They don't make people show up to vote, not vote, etc. They don't really even control the money, right?
Right.
Like, both
He
parties
raised a lot of money.
Yeah. Both parties get access to the same data that both campaigns had access to the same data that the party had. In fact, Sanders kept getting yelled at, his team, for using the data in ways they weren't supposed to, right? And accessing information they weren't supposed to.
Yeah.
And so they almost lost it. And then they were like, it's the establishment. Like, and it was like, Tad Devine was out there yelling about that shit. And it was like, no, your aides are improperly using information that they're not supposed to in ways that the Clinton campaign isn't. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Don't do that. But sure, maybe Donna Brazile helped Clinton with said, yeah, we're going to get some questions that are kind of like this. Yippee fucking do. Like, that doesn't change.
His pathological refusal to directly engage with black voters.
Yeah, like he did better with voters of color later.
Yeah.
But it was already too late. And, you can say what you want about how black voters tend to lean more conservative. Black voters tend to go off of name recognition. Black voters tend to listen to their elected officials and their community leaders more than like the average white voter. And you could go into all of that, but you can't change that in a primary.
In general, you are not going to win any party nomination for a party you have historically not been a member of.
Right.
You can't be a registered independent for like 25 years of your legislative career and then decide I'm running as a Democrat. And expect the Democratic establishment to get behind you.
Right. And the thing is, again, we had a coronation 8 years earlier, right? Mm-hmm. And that was upended. Why? Because a charismatic Democrat showed up and trounced Clinton's coronation.
Right.
Right? The Democratic establishment preferred Clinton and was behind her.
And they were terrified of Obama losing.
Yeah.
Because this young biracial black man is going to show up and just steal the nomination, and he's going to get blown out. This country will never elect a black man to president.
The establishment did not want him. What happened is he was able to, one, run a better shadow primary and get a few key endorsements and some people in the establishment behind him, right? He was able to get some of the unions to stay on the sidelines, right? Like Bernie didn't do that. When the labor guy can't lock down
The labor vote.
the labor vote, like, you got a problem.
It's a problem.
And like, yeah, you could blame it on name recognition and Labor Party apparatus machinery or whatever. But also, there's the voters, and if you can't get the voters, that's a you problem.
And also, over this tenure in the House and later of the Senate, he could have also accomplished anything.
Yeah,
which he didn't. And my favorite part is, and I didn't even realize it at this time, but you look back at the 2016 primary, and one of the things that, like, Bernie supporters in particular were hammering Clinton on was the 94 crime bill.
Right.
When her husband was president and she was no kind of elected official, and Bernie voted for it.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. He voted against it in one round of voting, and he gave a speech about some of its flaws. Sure.
But when push came to shove,
he voted for it. Yeah.
She was not in the House or the Senate at the time.
Right.
She was married to the guy who signed it.
Yep. He had almost as many votes for war as she did. In fact, technically more because he'd been in longer.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
it's just,
Pentagon funding. Like, again, he talked about boondoggles, and then he turned around and had earmarks put in so that billions of dollars in contracts could be made in Vermont. Right?
Yeah.
For a major military boondoggle, the F-35.
And I say all of this.
He's not an imperfect hero. He's just like everybody else.
He's a politician. And I say all of this as someone who does not like Hillary Clinton and never has.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't hate her when she was just the first lady. When she wasn't an overtly political creature. Like, I know that she always, like, gave him advice.
And when she was first lady, she had the best fucking health plan I've ever seen in America.
If that healthcare plan had not collapsed, largely because of lack of support from Democrats,
right?
It is impossible to imagine how different of a country we'd be living in right now. It's unfathomable, because that would have been the basis upon which we built more reforms.
Yeah. In fact,
and gotten an even better system.
In fact, what we did get out of that collapsed bill wound up being one of the most life-saving, poverty-reducing programs that we've got, CHIPS, right?
For now.
Yeah. The Children's Health Insurance Program. Like,
while we fund it, yes.
Yeah, while we fund it. But Hillary Care collapsed, but one piece of it survived, and it brought millions of children out of poverty and allowed millions of children to survive into adulthood that wouldn't have.
Right.
Like, so
it saved lives.
Yeah, it saved lives. So you know what? Thanks, Hillary Clinton, for that one.
Yeah,
good job on that.
And what sort of, if that had been successful, what sort of political legacy would she have been able to build beyond that after Bill left office?
Right.
Like,
I wish that healthcare bill would have passed. It would have been, we would have been a much different country, because we would have a foundation for a single payer option.
Yeah.
Like, a public option would have existed.
If we're not
genuine reforms that didn't just benefit the insurance industry.
Yeah, if we're not going to have a straight single payer system, at least give me the option to buy into Medicare.
Like, I'm not opposed to multi-payer. Like, a lot of people on the left yell at me when I say that, but
I want
some of the best and most successful health insurance programs in the world in Western Europe are actually multi-payer, not single payer. I look at them. Sure, that works.
I want whatever system is going to give the most people the greatest access to health care with the least personal financial burden. Instead, 14 million people are going to lose health care entirely. Yeah. Hundreds of hospitals are going to close in the United States, and 8-year-olds will die because they are no longer dependents.
Speaking of, so Kennedy and Trump are painting this bleak picture of U.S. children as the sickest generation ever, while they're cutting all of these things. And you know what's funny? It's going to be self-fulfilling, right? Like, they're going to slash all of this funding for children's health insurance, right? And for Medicare and Medicaid, and rural hospitals are going to go away. And we are going to get the sickest generation of children we have seen in 40 years.
Yeah.
50 years. Like 50. Since, like, the 70s.
The most unvaccinated generation of children.
God.
In 60 years, too.
We're barreling towards this insanity.
Speaking of which, I am annoyed that I will apparently not have the choice to make the medical decision for myself whether or not I would want to get a COVID booster when one's available. Because they want to take that away for anyone who is under the age of 65 and not in a high-risk population.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Like,
What they want is they say they need to do clinical trials for every booster for anyone under the age of 65, which just means
we've never done new clinical trials for every new round of a vaccine.
And
we study them, we test them. We have what's better than clinical trials because every single time, like, they're not large changes each time, right? They're very small ones.
No, you're changing,
right?
Especially with mRNA vaccines, you're changing the specific genetic markers of the virus that you're targeting.
We have a test population first, right? So we observe them, check, right? We just don't go through a full clinical, and that's what they're expecting, is a full set of new clinicals each time. Which is insane. Every year we get millions of data points. The first time we roll out a vaccine, we do a full clinical on it, right? And then new adjustments, get a small test population for us to check, like, make sure it's working right. It gets rolled out then, and then as it's being rolled out, we watch the data, right? And that is way better than a new clinical. You fucking lunatics. Like, and it's not large enough changes to need a new clinical trial.
No.
But clinical trials are millions of dollars and take months and months to achieve. And so these guys just want to kill vaccination through malicious compliance and bureaucracy.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do. And it's fuck you.
It is becoming
Lying
quite apparent that
fascists.
the goal of the modern Republican Party is to kill as many Americans as possible in as short a time as possible.
And to do it,
they want you to die
through dishonesty and make us feel like I have to feel like I'm a crazy person for saying they want us to die.
Yeah,
but
they want us to die. It's on the page,
right?
They do everything but just say we want these people to die.
Like, the dishonesty, like, I get it. It plays to people's fears. Like, they don't do clinical trials on vaccines. Oh my God!
How do we know they're safe? Well, they've always been safe,
right? And it's not a new vaccine.
It's not.
Each time a new vaccine is rolled out, full clinicals are done on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing that changes is the specific strain of the specific virus that specific version of the vaccine is targeting.
Yep.
And they are minor changes.
New changes.
That's plug and play.
Yeah. New changes that they make to subsequent vaccinations, right, are to improve their efficacy against new strains or or the existing strains when they find a new way of making it work better, right?
Right.
And they change the amount of certain ingredients in it up and down. They adjust a little bit about the genetics of the virus. That's it. It's a very small adjustment. And like I said, they test it. Like, it's not like they just toss it out blind. There is a test population, right? They just don't do a full clinical because those are long and expensive and have months-long approval processes. And by telling you that lie and getting people to believe it, they're laying a groundwork where people say, okay, well, yeah, I guess we've got to know that they're safe. And it's going to kill new vaccination.
Yeah. And let's, speaking on the flip side of medical experimentation, I think we need to talk about Adriana Smith. Because this is, I have seen a lot of shit happen in the United States of America over the course of my 46 years. This is the most ghoulish thing that I have seen occur within the borders of the lower 48.
Yes. For those who haven't caught it, there's a woman.
She is brain dead.
She's brain dead. She's in Georgia.
She is not alive.
Right.
Brain death, there's no coming back from brain death. It is the total cessation of brain functioning.
Yep. She has been declared brain dead. There is no option for her to come back. Her brain is not going to function. She was 8 weeks pregnant.
She was 9 weeks. Yeah, it's 8 to 9 weeks.
8 to 9 weeks pregnant.
But beyond the 6-week abortion ban.
So that's 2 to 3 weeks beyond the abortion ban in Georgia. They are against her family's wishes. a woman who has a DNR.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and speaking of which, I found out that there are 30 states where it is okay for the DNR of a pregnant woman to be ignored legally. It's a specific exclusion in 30 states. Pregnant women's DNRs can be overruled.
Okay. So,
Just to
make me angry?
Just to
Okay,
make you
thank
angrier. I mean, that's what I'm here for.
All right. So, yeah, and maybe the rest of us too. So, she had a DNR. Her family, she's married, correct?
She is married.
She's married.
She is already a mother.
Yep.
I think her first child is 8.
Yeah. So, her husband, presumably the father of the child, does not want this to happen. Her parents aren't for it.
No.
Like, there's no one except the state of Georgia that has decided that this woman needs to be kept alive as a human fucking incubator, despite the fact that her body isn't going to produce the correct hormones for this child to live. Medical experts are saying that the child is going to die anyways.
Yeah, they've already determined that it's got hydrocephaly.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what that is, that's water and swelling of the skull due to water on the brain.
So they're going to keep this fetus alive in a woman that they're keeping just her body alive as a living incubator.
Yes.
Right? Whose brain is dead.
She's basically an axolotl tank.
Yeah. And for the Dune fans out there, all right. So yeah, this is out of The Handmaid's Tale. It's literally
one of the season 3 episodes of The Handmaid's Tale. This happens. Also to a black woman.
And no one wants it except the state. Medical professionals don't want this to happen. Family doesn't want it to happen. The husband doesn't want it to happen.
Even the Attorney General of Georgia has been like, I don't think they need to do this.
Right.
But they're too afraid to.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go to prison over it, which I understand. But don't put doctors in that position.
This is the problem with these dumb right to life laws, these dumb anti-abortion bans. Like this is insane.
Yeah, this is a fetus that if it survives to far enough, if its gestational age reaches a point where it reaches viability, it won't be viable. A couple of hours of screaming agony and then death.
Like, look, I could understand a state having a law that says, look, if a woman is past the point of viability, right, or at there with putting a child in an incubator, right, like where the child will survive outside of the womb.
Yeah, if you make an attempt to, like, if it is if someone
an attempt to save
if someone
the child,
is 23 weeks pregnant,
yeah,
or 24 weeks pregnant, whatever, and something tragically happens to them and they end up brain dead, their body basically being kept alive artificially, technically. Obviously, they at that late in the pregnancy, this was a wanted child that they wanted to have. Right. You know, this is someone who's like already picked out a name. Yeah. They've probably already painted the nursery. Like, these are people who wanted a kid. Like, yeah, the father is like, they've got all the steps ready. Like, you know, doing whatever you can to save the fetus. At that point, emergency cesarean, right? NICU, incubators. They may or may not survive. You make the effort, and like that's different. I could even understand the idea of, okay, the child needs another week, 2 weeks of gestation before we can remove it. Like, and even then, we can keep the mother alive. It would be up to the family, the husband. Shouldn't be the state's choice. The state should not steal your autonomy like that and use your body as a science experiment, because more than anything else, this is basically an attempt to do a real-world study on the efficacy of what they have called total gestational donation, whereby a woman could agree in the case of brain death to allow her body to be used as an incubator by the state. But there have been no real-world tests to see if that's even possible, and that's basically what they're doing now. Doesn't seem that it's possible. It doesn't seem that it's possible, and it's monstrous. It's monstrous, and it's ghoulish, and it's ugly, and it needs to fucking stop. Oh, we didn't get into the best part. So remember,
she's a married woman. Mm-hmm. That means it's a surviving spouse.
Yeah.
Who's being forced to pay?
The family is being forced to pay.
For the medical bills.
The family is being forced to pay.
This woman's body alive to try to force this baby to be born.
Her 8-year-old son.
Her husband.
Her 8-year-old son, I think he's 8 years old, can't understand that she's not going to wake up. Because he has to see her in the hospital hooked up to all of these machines, forcing air into her lungs, pumping her full of norepinephrine to keep her blood pumping.
My God, this is fucking horrendous.
So the family can't even mourn her death. Oh, and another thing.
do we need to keep going into other things on this one?
If she had been given a CT scan the first night she went into the goddamn ER, and not just sent home with medications, they would have seen the blood clots that caused the brain death the next morning, and she would probably just be alive and pregnant now.
Yeah, we know that. That's yeah. All right.
And then here's something that I have to verify. I have to verify this part, but I have heard that one of the reasons why she was not given the proper treatment at that time is because there is apparently, due to that treatment, a risk of loss of a pregnancy. Yeah. And since she was already past 6 weeks, they didn't want to risk violating the 6-week abortion ban law. That's what I heard. I haven't verified that.
I don't want.
I haven't verified that, but it's.
Yeah.
I hope I never hear anything worse.
Yeah. You poor Pollyanna. You sweet summer child. You know you're going to hear worse.
I know, but
we're going to hear lots worse.
I really don't want to.
This is just the tip of a fucking iceberg, my friend. Speaking of tips of icebergs, we might not see them coming. Speaking of not seeing things coming, the Trump administration killed, 27 people last week?
Yes, the Trump administration, along with Elon Musk and Doge, murdered 27 people in Kansas and Missouri.
Yeah, by gutting the systems that give us early warning for tornadoes. And people died in some major storms.
That reminds me.
We've got a hurricane season coming.
Yeah, FEMA says that they're only 6 to 8 weeks away from being ready for hurricane season, which starts in 10 days.
Yeah, that's right there. Our FEMA is behind by a lot in its prepping for possible hurricane disasters. The weather agencies are in turmoil and understaffed. NOAA and the FEMA are just entering this season without proper staffing, without proper money. Specialists have been fired. Specialists are furloughed. Don't know if they're really hired.
The well-staffed locations that still exist are at 60% of their previous staffing from last year.
And they claim they are perfectly staffed,
right,
for what they claim they need to be staffed. So again, another lie that they're passing. Because when you cut staffing and then say that it's when you cut staffing for things that were understaffed, right, and then say that that's all the staffing that it needs,
I forget.
You're lying.
I forget where specifically it was, but I saw a video of somebody who was tuning into the Weather Alert radio station that was just broadcasting a message that's like, due to staffing, this station will be not transmitting new information for the next 8 hours. So the Weather Alert radio station that is just there to alert you to what the weather is doing was just off for 8 hours.
Which we have more chaos happening in the airline industry, and
I heard they've lost radio contact at Newark like 4 times now.
Yeah, it's getting bad. Let's see. There was a period of weeks where Israel was keeping food out of Gaza. That was fun.
They fired on diplomats. Did you hear that one?
So again,
it was a bunch of diplomats, like from France, the UK, Belgium, Germany, in the West Bank.
Wow.
That the Israeli government fired on. Didn't hit anybody.
That's good.
Hey, we didn't kill you.
That's good.
But apparently they had mistaken them for potential militants.
And, you know, once again, I wonder why it is that people are shooting your fucking embassy staff, assholes.
And there hasn't been an official announcement made yet, but there are rumors going around that in one of their airstrikes they actually took out the leader of Hamas.
Yeah, Netanyahu says it appears that Sinwar was killed. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, they hadn't confirmed. Last I'd heard, they had found a body they believed to be his, but they hadn't confirmed it.
Though these people don't seem, again, whoever's in charge doesn't matter.
It's like,
this is a movement. It's like,
if you want it to stop, you just you give Gaza to the Palestinians.
And you
let them have the West Bank.
Find a way of connecting it to the West Bank, and you leave them alone.
You leave them alone. You let them self-govern. Instead, it's permanent occupation forever now.
Yeah.
Maybe let people use their own waterfront fucking the beaches to get goods in and out of their own fucking country.
Heck, maybe even let them play on the beaches without getting bombed. I don't know. If their children are playing on a fucking beach and get bombed, maybe they will want to bomb you.
That reminds me. You remember?
Oh, I would.
You remember when they had killed like three waves of aid workers and buried them in a mass grave? Like they killed a bunch of aid workers, then the next group came and they killed them, and then the next group came and they killed them.
Yeah.
And they buried them all in a mass grave. There were two witnesses to that. It was a father and a son. Now the father, they were being held by the IDF when this happened. Now the father was black bagged, so he couldn't see anything, but the son, the 12-year-old son, wasn't. So the 12-year-old son was explaining to his father everything that was happening while it was happening. He was the only living witness to what happened that day. So the other day when him and his father were out on the boat, the IDF took the boat out, their fishing boat. The 12-year-old was killed. It was a targeted assassination of a 12-year-old witness to a war crime.
Yeah,
that's where we're at.
That's where we're at.
That's where we're at.
Israel, our partner in peace.
You know, they're the only democracy in the Middle East.
If you exclude.
No, they're the only.
Yeah, sure. That structurally excludes lots of its, like, 6 million people that they're occupying.
You know.
And like 20% of their population inside of their country that has like diminished rights and limited political power, and their political parties are threatened with disbandment and arrest if they disagree with the administration too much. You know.
Yeah.
They could be deported. You can be deported if you don't agree with the idea of it being a Jewish-only state.
It's called freedom.
It's called freedom. You know, so yeah. Fuck you, Israel. I hope your government collapses, and, you know, it would suck.
Their current strategy is doing nothing but guaranteeing their long-term destruction.
Yeah.
Like, it is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
They will have to eliminate the Palestinians in order to eliminate Palestinian resistance from this point forward.
And
they will have to complete the genocide to get rid of the resistant population.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, they're fucked. Like,
it's good. It's good times.
Yeah.
The future's bright.
Wow, fucking... Yeah.
God damn.
These tariffs are causing fucking worldwide problems. Like,
as those of us who can read knew they would.
Yeah. Fucking stock market.
I am becoming more and more of the mind that I do very often wish I was stupid. Because if I were stupid, I wouldn't know what was happening. And if I knew what was happening, I wouldn't be able to understand it. Because I'd be stupid. And that's got to feel real fucking good about now.
Oh, hey, 50 of the Trump crypto dinner invitees have, like, alt-right, Nazi, and fucking racist, like, ties. Like, because of course they do.
Oh, we have officially accepted that jet from Qatar.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. You know, it's not a crime because he does it out in the open. Right. And he doesn't pretend he's not doing it.
When he takes a $700 million bribe. And it's just like, yeah, I'm doing this. What are you gonna do about it? Like, the best part is if they do, I cannot fathom that they're not going to put like listening devices or something inside of there. I have a friend who works as a mechanic in avionics, right? And he was talking about how, like, in order to make sure that this plane hasn't been tampered with, right?
It's complete disassembly, down to every component.
And then comparison against the spec sheet, right? And images of the component. You have to take it down to the fucking wires.
The rough estimate of the cost to bring this $440 million plane up to the standards to be Air Force One, in the neighborhood of $1.2 billion.
And take years.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to disassemble this thing.
Yeah.
And put it back together. Like, that's where we're at. But he wants to keep the plane. What I assume is going to happen, actually, is that he's not going to use it as Air Force One because it's not safe, right? And let it
It'll
sit.
just be his private jet till he's out of office.
Yeah.
It'll become his private jet once he's out of office.
Yeah. And it's a scam. And you, the American taxpayers, are getting fucked once again.
And, I don't know, 30 million of you are too fucking stupid and blind to be able to figure that out.
Yep.
So,
fuck you, because you're fucking me.
Yeah.
Do we have any good news? I mean, there was a court that blocked the administration's attempt to dismantle the Department of Education.
That's good.
That is good
That's
news.
good. Locally, and this excites me. The Beach Theater, which was a local institution back in the day out in St. Pete Beach, is officially reopening after like nearly a decade on July 18th.
Oh, nice. Yes, we talked about that.
That's nice. What other good news has happened? You know, some weeks it's really, really hard to know what the good news is.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I did see. This is just good to me.
Okay.
Trump and Elon Musk are now globally less popular than Putin and Xi Jinping, and Musk has lower favorables than Putin.
He's also like basically being scrubbed by Trump from the federal government.
Except, here's the thing. Here's what I noticed about that. His public profile is he's still in cabinet meetings. He still went to Saudi Arabia. He's still in the Middle East peace deal conversations. He's still in on the crypto talks, right? He's still there in the room.
He's just not the face.
Not the face anymore. They realized that they botched it with him being the face, right? But he's still around, like everywhere in all these fucking meetings. So they're just lowering his public profile because he has the favorability of like 3 points lower than Vladimir Putin.
Like, I am genuinely dumbfounded by anyone who supports any of this. Like, I don't know. I'm just, especially when it's like, some of these people I know aren't stupid.
Right.
And historically have not been like actively evil. Like, they became very dumb and very evil. And it's an interesting heel turn to witness in certain people where it's like, what, you know, especially when it's a lot of the average everyday dipshit on the street Trump supporters, they don't benefit from any of this. This hurts them in some instances more than anyone else. Like you see all these small business owners, especially with the tariffs, screaming, it's like, I voted for you. Why save me, please? I know you're a genius and you're doing what's best, but this hurts right now.
It's like, well, we told you.
It's like, and then
they're doing exactly what they said they were going to do, and people are saying, and you were warned. Like, I understand that there's information bubbles, etc. But there really is a large segment of the population that heard what he said he was going to do and didn't believe it or thought it was going to hurt other people, right?
Yeah.
And that it wouldn't impact them. And they didn't believe the experts or the media or whatever when they gave warnings.
I mean, that's
on you.
There are
that
people.
That is all your fault.
There
it's
are
on
people
you.
I have personally spoken to who will openly acknowledge that I am smarter and more knowledgeable than them on nearly every subject.
Right.
Who would not believe me.
Yeah.
When I told them. Like, and I'm just talking, like, would not believe me on basic things like what a tariff is. They just... Like, these are people who I know 2 years ago knew what a tariff was.
Right.
And today they do. They genuinely don't. It's like the information just evaporated from their fucking frontal lobe.
The largest fucking sunk cost fallacy playing out in real time and turning into the Dunning-Kruger effect all at the same time.
It's exhausting.
Like, I cannot, for the life of me, understand this. Like, it's making no sense. But these people, like, they did it to themselves.
And the rest of us.
And the rest of us. And, like, look, if you regret it and you're like, I will not support this anymore and I won't vote for the GOP ever again, and good. Great. Welcome aboard. If it's just that you just don't get it and you want to keep voting for more of the same, but hope that it doesn't affect you anymore, or you just want to cry because the tariffs are hurting your pocketbook, fuck off.
Fuck off. All the way.
You're hurting me. You hurt my friends. You're hurting yourself. You did this. I did not. And I'm going to say, I fucking told you so until the cows come home. If you changed your mind, you changed your position, you are now on Team Resistance, welcome aboard.
Yeah.
If you're just going to be a fucking whiny bitch who wishes that it would hurt other people, nah, fuck all the way off.
Fuck all the way off.
And speaking of fucking all the way off about whiny bitches who hurt other people, let's go into the next segment.
All right.
Actually recording. We're back from the break that you didn't see because of the magic of editing. Dun, 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 dun. Now, we're going to give you the big warning. There will be spoilers, lots of spoilers for...
Really specific, detailed spoilers.
We're going to be talking about Andor, Season 2 for the most part, Season 1 some, Rogue One for sure, and, you know, how it relates to New Hope to a degree.
And how it all relates to...
Modern
2025
politics
and the country we live in, because for a show that was written in 2023 and done filming early last year.
Now to give a quick Daredevil set of spoilers, again, spoilering for Daredevil Born Again, because I again can't believe Disney is actually producing such subversive content lately. Their writers could not have foreseen how the parallels of having a convicted criminal and thug elected to office and then dismantling the systems of government and checks against them and utilizing the police as a private, like, you know, beat squad, like, and turning the population into like anti-vigilantism. Like, it's fascinating. Like, that was great.
It's amazing.
And it's so on the nose to today's politics by mistake. So that was cool. But even bigger and even better, we get Andor.
Andor, which is not just the single best piece of Star Wars media.
No.
Period. It is, especially now that it's over, and we can look at it in the totality of the entire series, top 5 TV series of all time.
Absolutely. First, a distinction that it has, it is the only show to get a 9.5 or higher on IMDb for 5 episodes in a row. Only show to ever do that. 5 episodes in a row where it's scored 9.5.
The Sopranos didn't do it. Breaking Bad didn't do it.
Nope.
Mad Men didn't do it.
Dexter didn't do it.
Especially in later seasons.
Yeah, but none of them. Better Call Saul didn't
Better Call
do it.
Saul.
Not a one of the top prestige shows of the last 15 years have done that.
The back half of season 2 is... It's hard to actually describe how much of an artistic triumph it was.
Yeah, it is. I mean, on every note that you could talk about a show, it's great. So season 1, you get the one complaint that some people gave that I don't get, but some did, was that its pacing was a slow burn.
It was very deliberate.
Yes, it was
in
very
its
deliberate.
pacing.
But you get 4 distinct 3-episode arcs. Well, one of them's a 2-episode arc, and one episode kind of stands on its own in the first one,
Right.
First season. But each one, it tells this story beginning, middle, end, beginning, middle, end, and you get a nice year of the character's development that shows him going from being just a grifter, more of a drifter, just a thief, and
a smuggler
and a scrapper, and a guy who had some military experience, so he could shoot, and he knew a little bit about, basic, weaponry, etc.
But it was all just basic survival, and he was kind of a sleazeball.
Yep.
Kind of a not the greatest person.
Not the greatest
especially
person.
in the first few episodes of that first season.
He's not a bad guy either. He's just he's a genuine Han Solo type, but not cool, not charismatic. More of he's like a rogue. He does what he has to do to get by, to survive.
His pragmatism is based purely on survival.
Yep.
From one day to the next, just getting through, not being crushed.
Yep. And in the first episode, he shoots a cop. Now it's a corporate cop, but it's a cop for seeing his face.
Glorified mall cop.
Yep. Now this mall cop was trying to shake him down. Like he was getting robbed by the cops, and it goes sideways, and one of the cops kills another one by mistake, and he's going to take the fall for it. Well, and actually, maybe he's the one. It's hard to tell. But yeah, he kills a guy by mistake, or the other guy kills him. It's hard to tell which one of them in the scuffle did it, and then he kills the other guy for seeing him. And while he's begging, and people talked about it like saying that he was evil. I was like, no, he's not evil. It's like, yeah, the guy was begging for his life, but he was
also a cop
who was telling him a story. We'll go in together, and I'll say it was an accident, and you'll be fine. It's like, no, he's not. That's a lie. The guy's just lying to him to get him to go in with him. But he kills the guy, and that lets you know that this character is willing to do what it takes to survive. And I loved that about it. And through the course of that season, you watch his radicalization through the lens of other people and situations happening to him, and his experience of going into prison.
It's a really, really beautiful example of how, despite all of the evidence you're presented by the world, it can take something extreme happening to you personally to radicalize you.
Yeah.
Because who he was before Narkina and who he was after Narkina are two completely different people.
Yeah. And
it was in that 3-episode arc where he was in prison that he internalized Nemec's manifesto and came to understand it.
Right. And even then, when he had first got out, he just, again, wanted to go survive, wanted to go hide.
Yeah.
And he goes to his mother's funeral, and her last words, that speech she gives, calling on basically the people of Ferric to revolt against the Empire, his journey to radicalization ignites that. Yeah. Right? Because I genuinely get the impression that, while he was radicalized, he didn't want to risk death or prison again.
He was radicalized in the way I think a lot of people are currently radicalized, where they are painfully aware of how unfair everything about the system is, both to them and others. But, it's not worth dying over.
Right.
And I understand that. Nobody wants to have to die for that. It's not what you don't wake up in the morning and say, I am going to die opposing fascism today.
Right.
You don't wake up and do that. Even if you're in the fight, you don't wake up and say, today is a good day to die.
Yeah.
We're not Klingons.
And by that point in his life, he'd always been surviving. You learn that the Republic beforehand, on its way to being the Empire, eliminated his family and his people, and he'd been hiding since, right?
Yeah. I want so much materially about what the average life for the normal person was like under the Republic. We got a good chunk of that from Andor about what your daily life was like under the Empire.
Right.
But I would love to be able to compare, how much worse did it get for people under the Empire? Was their daily life different, except plus you had the threat of state-sponsored violence more so than normal?
What I really want to see is what it looked like from the period just before Phantom Menace, when the trade negotiation, like when all of that is like falling apart, right?
Before Palpatine actually started making his moves.
Right. Like, so just before that to the end of Revenge of the Sith, right? Because that arc, that time period, that's the descent into fascism, right? Like, and the Empire, by the time you get to the immediate aftermath of the Empire's the Empire.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we are now the Empire, and we're annihilating populations, and we're doing this, and we're doing that. And I don't think it was that slow of a burn. Like, you know, I think that the corruption of the Republic was happening, and that the Republic under Palpatine was cracking down more and more, and that...
Well, they had to do something about the Separatists.
Yep. And those things that you're seeing in the Clone Wars a little bit of, where it's either Separatist planets are getting like oppressed by the Republic, you get a little glimpse of that. You get a lot of like people in charge of planets, senators and governors and etc. Right, and nobility oppressing their own populations while being part of the Republic.
And you'll have indigenous populations who just want to be left alone and stay out of it. They don't care about the Republic. Nope. They're not interested in being separatists. They just want to live their mostly agrarian lifestyle and be left alone. And what happens? The war comes to their doorstep and they don't have a fucking choice.
Yeah. And so I get the impression that the Republic was becoming more and more authoritarian, like through drips and drabs, much like the United States. Like where...
And yeah, it's also important to remember that you can have aspects of fascism without being fascist.
Yeah. I think we've been having a growing police state in this country my entire life, right? And
especially since the 90s.
Especially since the 90s. And we've found more and more ways of criminalizing otherwise unruly... I'm sorry, my puppy is deciding she wants to be crazy now. She's been chill and napping this whole time.
I think that's the very first time she's made a noise while recording.
Yeah, it is.
In like, I don't even remember how many weeks it's been.
Like 2 months, over?
2 months, yeah. 8 or 9 weeks.
She has decided she is anxious and wants attention. So I apologize. So I think the United States, we've had this growing, you know, with increased policing, the expansion of the drug war, more and more laws against just disorder, right? And we spend more time, like, you know, disorderly conduct used to be something that, you know, a cop used to just tell you, move along.
Yeah, get out of here, kids.
Get out of here. Now you get arrested for it, and you spend 2-3 days in jail until a judge then tells you you're released on your own recognizance, like, or you pay a fine, and it's usually poor people paying these fines, and it's over and over and over again.
They'll house you without charge. They just decide 72 hours later, you're free to go.
You're free to go. And it's
we've inconvenienced you enough that you can't do what you were doing.
Yep.
That direct action or protest you were engaged in is over. You can't do it now. Yep.
And you might have lost a job, and you might have spent money to bond out.
Yep.
And
the financial burden of you might have missed 2 days of work, and even if you didn't lose your job, that might mean that come the end of the month, you are desperately trying to figure out how to cover every bill you have. And then you're left you're behind the next month, and it can take months to a year or more to catch back up and get on solid footing again, just from like one unexpected 3-day stint locked up when you shouldn't have been.
And we give police more and more latitude and leeway and deference and power and lack accountability. And so to allegory to that with Andor, that first episode, to glorified mall cops, but they actually have the power of policing because it is a corporate-run planet.
Yeah,
right?
They are they are corpos in the parlance of cyberpunk.
Yep. And Star Wars.
Star Wars. They call them corpos.
Corpos. Yeah. So it's a corporate planet, which means that corporate law and empire law is above it. You know, but the corpos enforce it.
Just the fact that like it means that the empire was subcontracting out security services into the Outer Rim.
Yeah.
In places that they didn't want to deal with, they'll just pay somebody to do it, maintain order. If anything happens,
We want
that
your
needs-
company
yeah.
to mine this place,
Yeah.
mine the shit out of it, and you guys provide security and policing for it.
Keep it secure, or make it at least look like it's secure from the outside. Quiet any problems. Make sure nobody finds out nothing.
And when there are rebellions or uprisings against that, the places get a crackdown, and the Empire comes in force.
Yeah.
So you see that the cops are abusing their power in episode 1, and then he gets away. He gets his money from the job. He's living under an assumed identity. He's vacationing in a paradise planet.
He's got that Imperial Starpath unit.
He's got that, yeah. But you know, he's doing well, right? And what happens? Well, he gets rounded up for a crime he didn't commit, and karma weirdly is coming for him because you know he's killed somebody, he's committed some crimes, etc. By this point, but it's
By the time he's arrested, he's been involved in like an amazing heist.
yeah, but he's not arrested for anything he's done.
Yeah.
He gets wrongfully accused of
A non-crime.
a non-crime, walking, right?
Yeah.
Walking in the wrong place at the wrong time. A cop rounds him up, just decides he's part of it, right? And he goes to jail. A prison where he was going to just never get out of. And they go to work him to death. We get to see the crushing machinery of it in the first season. But season 2, oh my God, season 2.
Season 2 is... It's a transcendent work of art. It's really... I struggle to put into words how good of a show it became in season 2. Straight from like having the season broken up into 4 3-episode arcs, each 1 year apart, which was a great storytelling conceit, because without having to show everything, you were very much given a sense of like how the rebellion progressed year over year, just by virtue of like how much things had changed year over year, like the amount of inferences you could make about the building and the scale of the rebellion year over year. Oh, it was a lot of showing without telling,
right?
Which was really masterfully done,
because they just show us the state of things as they currently are. So we get this 1 year time jump in between, and each time we get it, it's just like, oh, things are a bit different. Like, and so the first one, it's 1 year later, right? The first episode of the season, it's called 1 year later, and it's 1 year after the events of the last one, where he is now part of the rebellion, working directly for Axis, a guy named Luthen Rail, who season 1 gives like one of the best monologues in television history.
Yeah,
like, it's such a beautiful, revolutionary, and its themes echo throughout the entire show from that point on, because both seasons, really, the theme of the show is sacrifice. Yeah. Right? And he... like,
yeah, it was both a manifesto and a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. Where he says he's going to sacrifice everything for the rebellion. He is sacrificing everything for the rebellion, and that he's not going to live to see the end of it.
Sacrificing everything for the rebellion to the point that he's largely unrecognized as being instrumental in the success of the rebellion.
Yes.
He is not someone who is talked about when this is all said and done. He is not someone who is hailed as a hero when this is all said and done. He is all but memory hold.
By the end of me watching Rogue One, after I immediately watched Rogue One right after finishing season 2.
Yeah, I think I took like a 20-minute break.
I was so heartbroken for all of the characters.
Yeah.
Like, I was feeling a really emotional space for all of the characters and their trajectories and their arcs. And by the end of Rogue One, I was feeling so much for Luthen, who wasn't even in Rogue One.
No.
Right? He's not in it at all.
He was already dead.
He's already dead. But that entire film doesn't happen without him, right? And you realize that the rebellion doesn't happen without his work.
And outside
and
of
Hope doesn't happen.
Yeah, and outside of Cassian Andor himself, like, it largely goes unacknowledged.
Yeah.
Like, he understands that you don't end up with a rebel base on Yavin that's a really impressively well hidden safe haven. Like when even ISB workers haven't heard of it.
Right.
I mean that tells you how good of a location it is for a secret rebel base. The ISB was unaware of it, and this was a guy who had been poking his nose into information he shouldn't have even had.
Yeah.
Way above his pay grade.
The way, speaking of which, his double agent Lonnie, like,
great character.
Great character.
Great character.
That scene where towards the end where they actually meet in person, right before Luthen's final arc of the show, where they meet in person. One, you could tell it's majorly different because they met in person. They in public. In the
daytime.
Yep. They have a daytime park bench meeting. That is the big flag that they never use.
Every other meeting we see with them is in the lower levels of Coruscant, so buried in the city that the sun cannot penetrate that deeply.
Yep. Down the hidden elevator shaft that Luthen controls, right, to a space where he can flee. And instead, this is a public meeting with Luthen in his public garb, looking like himself, without a disguise, and Lonnie in person. And the way he draws Lonnie out by actually telling him about Yavin, about the rebel base. God, I knew he was dead the moment he said that. Yeah. Like, he's asking Luthen for himself and his family to be made safe. And he's like, where are you going to take us? And Luthen just tells him exactly where the rebel base is. Yavin 4 will be safe there. And as soon as he said those words, I knew Lonnie was a dead man. Like,
and that probably did protect Lonnie's wife and kid.
Yeah. They can't be tortured.
They can't be tortured. They didn't know anything. And as far as anybody knows, he was just murdered.
Yeah. And now obviously the ISB knows after that he had gotten into Dedra Meero's files and knew about Death Star. And it's pretty clear that, he'd been a spy. But there's not a lot to go on after that. Speaking of which, Dedra, her beautifully tragic story arc.
The character arcs we got for Dedra Meero and Cyril Karn in season 2. I mean, Cyril's story really began in season 1. His obsessive quest with fucking finding Andor and
and he and Dedra were a great parallel to the fight, the opposite
his
of
singular obsession with this one man who he barely had an interaction with, and this was a guy who had a gun to his head once, and
Andor had no idea he was the major suspect to this guy.
No.
Until the very end, when he's like, oh yeah, no, they think they're onto you for that murder, right? And he had no idea that Cyril was who he was. He was just some corpo cop that he held a gun to.
Yeah.
That's it. Barely saw his face. Only saw it from the side. And Cyril had this obsession about getting him and blaming him for his fall from grace,
and
his career.
Creating this narrative in his own head that this person was his mortal enemy, and they were inexorably heading towards this final showdown. It was his main character arc.
Right. And it happens. He has the showdown. Now, episode 8, my God. That was when things really, we get 7 good episodes to that point with some parts that are hit and miss, right? They're good. They're all solid. Nothing's wrong with them.
No, but the Gorman Massacre episode of season 2, that is in contention for the best hour of television, full stop, of all time.
I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. The intensity that they captured in that episode from beginning to end and the pacing of it just
The tragedy of it.
yeah, it had me just waiting to see what was happening next, because you get the build up to a protest that's going to go sideways, and the Empire has created a situation where they want that protest to turn into a riot so they can blame it for a revolution that they had to put down.
It's like Dedra says to Krennic early on in the season, they need a rebellion that they can be sure will do the wrong thing at the right time.
And they do that earlier on in the season when they get their first like weapons heist that again the Empire let happen. Like the Empire was letting them, get information and feeding them intel on the movement of shipments and weapons so that they would arm themselves, like as a resistance movement, from going from peaceful to an armed resistance, which gives them more of an excuse. They were counting on the Gormans utilizing violence and force, and they did. But they had to kill their own to do it. Everything about that episode from beginning to end was so intense. You felt the buildup, and then it turns into a fucking massacre. Oh,
and knowing that it was a massacre that afterwards involved the either displacement or destruction of the entire population of the planet.
Yeah, we don't know which by the end. I think it's both.
I think it's both. I think more people were forced off than killed.
Yeah.
But the planet is strip mined into oblivion.
Right.
Gorman just ceases to be.
A beautiful, wealthy planet that had political power, that felt itself generally immune to things from the Empire, had been set up for years.
It was
years. Knowing, because I mean, by the time we even get that scene with Krennic, which also the patterning that scene off of both the meeting to institute the final solution and the setting off of the Eagle's Nest.
Yeah,
was some brilliant visuals. It was and it wasn't on the nose. I was watching it going, this seems really familiar. Why is it so? I know this. I know this map from Call of Duty. I know where we're at.
Goddamn, Ben Mendelsohn was incredible.
Yes,
he was great in Rogue One, playing the same character. But getting so much of his seeing how good he was at planning and coming up with the ideas and fomenting opinion through propaganda, through the propaganda arm of the Empire. Incredible performance.
Yes. He turned to Gilroy. His condition for wanting to do the scene, to do the show, was that he get to turn it up, right? That was what he had said. He said, I want to turn it up, because so far, Rogue One, you showed me as an upper middle manager in a worm, and I loved doing the role.
And he started Rogue One already on the ropes.
Yeah.
He was in this second season of Andor, we get to see him at his most confident before the pressure of the job really started to weigh down on him.
Yes.
You see it escalate over the course of the seasons year over year, because you also, because they do that year jump, you get to see how things are not going to plan in the way they should.
Right.
You get to see his failures as a director. He is not the best project manager for this project.
Right. And there's outside political bullshit really coming down on him too. So in Rogue One, when you first see him, you actually see him at probably his most confident, because that's when he's got these guys at his back, right? The
flashback at the beginning.
Yep. That first time you see him, he is powerful. He's in charge of the weapon project, but it's slowed down because Galen Orso has gone AWOL, right? And he needs him back. So he finds him. But at that point, he's got the power to find an unfindable guy, right, that's hiding out in the middle of nowhere, and come with a force to get him. And he's cocky and competent, like, I'm going to do this. And then by the end of the movie, or the next time you see him, he's on the ropes. There's all the political pressure because the project has taken so long.
It's gone over budget. It's behind schedule.
Yep. And
they've had all sorts of technical problems.
Exactly. And you know that Urso was part of that and had slowed things down a little bit.
Speaking of which, I've seen, it's not stated in the show at all, but I've seen a lot of speculation that all of the problems that they were having with synthetic calcite was him sabotaging the effort to, like, synthesize calcite in effort to stall. So in a way, the theory is that he was kind of indirectly responsible for what happened to Gorman.
Interesting.
Where they had the only real large natural supply of the calcite they needed for the I think they were using it as like the coating of the reactor.
It's possible. So what fascinates me is I actually thought from the beginning that they weren't really putting that much of an effort into finding a replacement. That maybe they were doing some science to see if there was an alternative.
I can believe they were doing a lot of science because of how interested they were in keeping the entire project secret.
Fair, but what strikes me about that is that in the scene with Pendergast where he's like, so bad luck Gorman, it was so nonchalant about it.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to that meeting, they've already put an embargo and shut down shipping lanes on the Gormans, and people are already, like, the Empire's already giving Gorman problems, right?
And they've already started propagandizing against them.
Yeah, they've already started propagandizing against them. It's years.
Although, by the same token, I could also see the Empire just doing that because when the Empire took power, Gorman was already a politically and economically powerful
and independent state.
So it would be beneficial to the Empire to make them less popular.
And that's true. It just seemed like there was so much of they'd been planning this for years, and that they might have put an effort into it, but they did a big cost-benefit analysis, and it was going to be cheaper and easier to just wipe out the planet.
Yeah.
They do that, right? So they may have put an effort in. It just didn't seem like it was a lot of, right? And it seemed more like they were just ready to pull the trigger when they were ready to pull the trigger, right? Like, when the pieces were in place for them to stop with the propaganda thing and just make it happen, they did.
Although it did take them still, like, 3 years.
Yeah,
to get to the point. Well, 2 years.
Yeah,
to get to the point where
they had to propagandize against the population for long enough.
And some of the false flag attacks that are mentioned in passing.
Yep, and you learn about them, like, because Cyril says that one's bullshit. Like, my sources are telling me that's bullshit. Don't lie to me. And the way he's choking out Dedra when he learns that he's been used to create a genocide, which I gotta say, domestic violence, not great, but the discourse around that being as a domestic violence discourse is kind of kooky to me. Like, yes, technically it is because they were domestic partners.
Yeah.
But anytime somebody tells me, or I find out that somebody has used me to commit a horrible crime against humanity, and they're still lying to me about it, and I want the truth from them, I'm probably going to choke them.
And you know what? I am fairly certain. Going to choke them. I am fairly certain that if he had been clued into what was happening in the right way earlier on,
right,
and he hadn't been put in a position where he felt lied to and used, I think he could have been on board.
It's possible. I think he did view himself and the Empire as the good guys, right? He was having a hard time. He was one of those guys, which is that banality of evil thing. Like, he genuinely thought what he was doing was for everybody's benefit.
Right. He also had a hero complex where he wanted to be like
Yeah.
the big hero man.
And so using him as a double agent with the Resistance was on the nose, especially because with him being Dedra's partner, and her being read in, it would be easy for him to be used in that way.
And you do get some fleeting sense that at least on some level he had started to go a little native himself.
Yes.
Like he had, whether he would have ever admitted it, he had developed a level of genuine sympathy and appreciation for the Gorman people.
Oh, absolutely. It was the job, right?
Yeah.
He was supposed to be friendly with them, and he genuinely thought he was just trying to catch outside agitators who were trying to turn the peaceful people of Gorman into militants.
Terrorists.
Right. And so, yeah, he wanted to stop that. So he got to know these nice Gorman Resistance people who, they love their spiders and they want freedom.
They just want to make their super silk.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? The tradecraft we saw in the show, it was up there with some of the great spy novels and spy films like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yeah.
The writing was in that direction, the narrative structure. The cinematography is excellent in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and especially when you look at the way that spiderweb motifs were worked into every aspect of Gorman architecture, in just subtle ways. It wasn't overt, but it was just you just noticed that that kind of visual motif throughout all of their iconography, their written language,
and the way they utilize camera angles to denote power and feelings of hopelessness or scale was on point. I noticed that because I've watched this season particularly now 3 times. I'm in a couple episodes more. I'm not gonna lie, I really got obsessed with this one because it's
that goddamn good.
It's that goddamn good. But those utilizing the right positioning in the upper and lower third of the frame when somebody is or is not in a position of power was perfect. That scene with Krennic and Miro,
the final interrogation
scene. Some amazing acting. Especially that improv, that finger on the head.
The finger on the head thing.
That was improvised in her face.
Him being mostly just out of frame the entire time. Just this looming force hovering around her that you couldn't quite see, but he was just this presence
and
that
the
was
fear in her eyes.
Yeah.
The fear and confusion on her face the entire time. And goddamn was she right though, because he's angry at her for being a scavenger and he switches gears when he realizes that, her breaking all the protocols is how she was able to actually catch the guy, right? And yet he looks for another thing to blame her for because she's already caught. So fuck you, you're a failure. Because failure in the Empire is like a career ender, but they don't give you the tools for success either.
No,
that's the amazing thing is the rebellion would have collapsed if they had just put fucking Dedra Miro in charge of fucking intelligence 2 years earlier. It'd have been done.
Yeah.
If they'd have just given her free reign. But no, their bureaucracies and the stovepiping and the ladder climbing and the covering of the asses, right? The way that all of that functioned. That is what allowed the rebellion to continue to flourish under its own nose, right? Literally.
Yeah.
Using its own broadcast power to, right? Protecting it. And yet it was the bureaucracy of the Empire keeping information from Dedra that allowed that to happen. All right, stop. I am deeply impressed by that because you learn that, a CC'd email.
Yeah. An accident and incorrectly forwarded email was the beginning of the end of the Galactic Empire.
Right? Like, and it wouldn't have been if the ISB had just made agents like her have free reign to do their job.
You just put them in the position they're meant for, that they want. Like,
yeah. Because if she had gotten access to all the information and it wasn't stovepiped through sectors, like the number of times throughout all the ISB stuff where we were forced to deal with the fact that the rebellion doesn't respect which sector an ISB supervisor is supposed to be managing.
Yeah,
right.
Or how about the fact that, like, the ISB would have known who Axis was if they had not tortured the guy who knew who Axis was to death before he could give up the information.
Yep, and it was buried in a report. Like the fact that he knew about it, the information to put two and two together was just buried
right
in
there.
a report, and that was Krennic's guy's fault, his team, specifically. It's like in typical fashion, as she says, and her taking the fall and winding up in prison.
Narkina too, specifically.
Like, that is amazing.
Yeah,
like the exact same kind of prison that Andor went to in the previous season. Like,
and that's it. That's the rest of her life.
Yeah,
like there's a theoretical possibility that if she survived long enough in prison, that the Empire fell. That I'm sure that the New Republic went through and looked at everybody who was being detained by the Empire and reassessed their cases, and anybody who shouldn't have been arrested was let go. But like
she
would have just went straight from an Imperial prison to a New Republic prison,
or executed,
or executed. Although because they didn't seem as big on that as they probably should have been.
Oh yeah, no, that's their major failures are.
The failures of the New Republic are very similar to the failures of the United States during Reconstruction.
Yeah, and that's that. I guess that would be my next thing I want to talk about. Like, we get a good example. Why did the Republic fail, and why does the New Republic fall? It falls because of the politicians. The status quo centrists were the problem from the get-go. And you experience that in Andor again. Like Rogue One, they're skeptical, and as soon as they learn about the Death Star, half of them want to give up, right? Like, give up the rebellion. We can't win. We're doomed. And they have no respect for the people who get them there. But yeah, they have. Sorry about the pause there. They have no respect for all the work it took to get them there. Yeah. And they fear rogues and mavericks and people who want to do their own thing. But aren't they fighting for that freedom? Like,
theoretically.
You
know what I would love to see? And I don't know if this would deserve its own series or if it should be something that should take place in the background of other Star Wars material that takes place in the early days of the New Republic. I would love a sort of like a West Wing style exploration of like Mon Mothma's disillusion with politics as the first Chancellor of the New Republic, because she leaves political life.
Yeah.
And we don't really get a good sense of why. But she is not a political figure in the New Republic for long. And for being someone who was that involved in the rebellion and
right.
From the beginning and financing it.
Because she's involved in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
But by the time that you get to the sequel trilogy, she is way gone.
She's like, she doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Which, characters like Mon Mothma, like, their hesitation makes sense. And she is willing to be pragmatic about it. She's working with Luthen. She trusts Andor, right? She knows that the spies and the Mavericks are necessary to do their work, like, and for them to survive, and she's fighting for their freedoms. Then you get the Bail Organas, the people who, like, yeah, they're helping build the rebellion, but the whole time they're also worried about their own skin and doing everything slow and methodically through legal channels and means. And they want to build a new system that's legalistic afterwards, and where everything goes through councils, and all the most cautious political operatives are the ones in charge. And, you know, it was fascinating watching them put that into play in the last couple episodes of Andor.
What was amazing is how, without directly showing anything, they gave a sense of like how difficult it is to come out of something like a rebellion or a revolution and actually like build a functional society upon that.
Yeah.
Because you look at my boy Saw Gerrera. I love Saw Gerrera.
I love the game.
I was talking the other day, I would love a Ghost in the Shell, Akira style 1980s, 1990s like anime that just covers his life.
Right.
I think that would be amazing.
That would be kind of fun.
But also, like, he obviously does not have a plan for what comes next.
No.
After the revolution. He is just in a permanent revolution mindset where he's not interested in building a new republic.
No.
He doesn't, like, he
mostly wants anarchy.
Yeah,
like,
he doesn't have a plan beyond.
And I don't mean chaotic anarchy. I mean,
But
he wants an anarchist state of some type. Like
he is as close to one gets in a galaxy long ago and far away of like an anarcho-communist.
yeah, and yeah, he's a violent authoritarian in as far as it goes for his military operation, right? Because in order for that group of revolutionaries to succeed and do the extreme shit that they do, they can't have spies, they can't have leaks, they can't have people who aren't 100% dedicated to the cause, right? They need lunatic true believers, right, that are willing to follow orders.
Huff some Rido.
And huff some fucking Rido together, which, oh, wow. My headcanon is 100% that in Rogue One, that is not...
He's just huffing gas fumes the entire time.
After watching Andor, it's like, oh, he's addicted.
Sounds high, like,
yeah,
and you don't notice that until you get that backstory. But like,
yeah,
he sounds like he's holding it in. Yeah, and it changes his voice, it changes his demeanor. He gets more paranoid.
Yeah, and
immediately after he does it. So it's not just him needing a respirator.
The paranoid delusions that you experience in Rogue One, which, you know, in Rogue One, he's kind of a cartoony character in the movie. The first time you see it, like, he not very well fleshed out, seems like just kind of a lunatic.
It feels like some weird tonal choices are being made. It's like, where the fuck did this guy come from? Because that's... Had we seen him in earlier material? Had he been in?
Yes, he had been in Clone Wars.
He had already been in Clone Wars?
He had been in Clone Wars, but in Clone Wars he was young. He was a young Saw Gerrera, and he was not like the Saw Gerrera you see.
Right, because that was when his sister died.
Yeah, so you see the young radical revolutionary.
And his sister, of the two of them at the time, was the militant between them.
Yep. But so... by the end of his arc in the Clone Wars, he becomes kind of a violent revolutionary, right? And he's a true believer. But he is not the Saw Gerrera lunatic that you see in Rogue One. That's 30 years later.
No, he was not the guy who would like feed you to Borgullet.
Yeah. Like,
which I have questions about Borgullet.
Borgullet.
I want to know so much. We're like,
what?
Like, did they just like? Where is Borgullet from? Like, I'm sure that if I go to Wikipedia, I can learn all this, and I probably will as soon as we're done recording.
Probably,
But Borgullet, like, did they just, like, find this thing somewhere and be like, oh, shit, this is useful, we're stealing it?
Probably.
Like is it a sentient being? Is it more like an animal? Like, we get no sense of any of that.
It's like a telepathic thing that drives you crazy.
Yeah.
And tells people the truth because it just... drags information out of people's brains,
but it
drives them fucking nuts.
But like, and how do you get the information that it drags out of people's brains out of it when it does not seem to be speaking?
I mean, maybe it is speaking to Saw.
Is he then hooking himself up to Borgullet to get the information? Is that part of why he's so fucked in the head? Because he's just constantly using this fucking tentacle monster,
right? Telepathic tentacle monster,
straight out of a fucking Lovecraft story,
right? Like, I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know.
One thing I love about Bor Gullet, now people complained about Bor Gullet when Rogue One came out. I remember that being a specific complaint people had about some of the elements of the movie being kind of weird in a way that didn't seem to fit Star Wars. But like, there have been like some low key, especially in the old expanded universe, like full on cosmic horror elements in the Star Wars galaxy, like from day one, like just fucking weird shit. You got like just weird shit.
And like Andor season 1, when we get introduced to the Doctor who fucking breaks people's brains, right? Like using
Dr. Gorst.
Dr. Gorst using an alien's fucking scream, the scream of alien children, telepathic alien children, right? Like to drive people insane to get information out of them. Like that's horrendous, and that's kind of a great like juxtaposition of like the rebellion. Then like 10 years later gets Bor Gullet. Right? Like, or 5 years later or whatever, gets Bor Gullet. Like, the rebellion, they've got their own answer to Dr. Gorst, which is Saw Gerrera's telepathic tentacle monster that'll drive you insane. Yeah. You should fucking meet him. I loved that. After watching the show, like, again, the movie, it was complicated. It was like, this is a little dark, and where did this character come from? And then you only get him in 2 episodes. Is it 2? Maybe 3 episodes of Andor?
He's in a couple of episodes in season 1.
Like 2 episodes in season 1,
and
1 or 2 episodes in season 2.
At least 2 episodes in season 2.
But he,
like actually is a physical presence. I mean, we get the projection of him in the final episode of season 2.
Right. But it's so minimal, but also just enough, because that's especially like the scene with him and Luthen. And then the scene with him and Will. With the Rhydonium.
Willman is a character I'd like to see more of. Like, he's an interesting character to me because...
Oh, wait, he didn't go on Rogue One.
No, he survived.
He did.
Because he's physically injured.
That's
He had that fucked up leg, so he couldn't... He wasn't a field operative anymore after that.
Yeah.
I would love to get more information about him or see... Like, that's the thing. There are so many characters in this show that I want to know more about now. And one of the things that Andor did... and Rogue One, but especially Andor did, that has been lacking from particularly the Star Wars films that Disney has put out, is making the Star Wars galaxy feel bigger and less based on pure coincidence of like...
Yeah, and there's no character development.
Yeah.
Like, the films are not good at character development. They aren't character driven.
I mean, I forget who I was talking to about this at the bar yesterday, but your mainline Star Wars films, the prequels, the original trilogy, and the sequel trilogy, they are purely plot driven. It is plot point after plot point after plot point after plot point. You don't get and spend any time like learning about these characters. The characters that do feel really fleshed out feel that way because of how good their performances the actors are giving. Like,
right.
Han Solo's not Han Solo without Harrison Ford making him a real character.
And he's not well fleshed out by the dialogue. He's fleshed out by Harrison Ford embodying the character.
Those some of the, like, the looks on his face, the silent looks on his face, like how dismissive he is of the Force.
Yeah.
Which the dialogue itself doesn't give you that, but it's like the way he delivers it and sells it. It gives you a sense of the character that you wouldn't just get from the text,
right,
on its own.
And Andor just goes above and beyond to sell us that, to make it character driven. Rogue One too, like as far as like you got all the like big Star Wars, you subtract Jedi, right, but give us fucking blasters and space fights and dogfighting in fucking X-wings, and you got all of that going on in Rogue One, right?
Yeah.
And all of those big pan shots of battle cruisers and all that, which you love from Star Wars, right? Yeah. But still, the characters are the focus of that movie in a way that you did not get in any of the other movies.
Yeah.
Not a one of them. And like the way that you, at the end of that movie, like you watch Jin and Andor sacrifice, live their last moments together. like in watching the planet go, and every single character in that movie just fucking dying. All like everybody on the mission dies. Like
Yeah, and
it's
I also loved the way
in a touching way.
that, you know, a lot of people, when Rogue One came out, a lot of people watched it. A lot of people have inferred a kind of potentially romantic connection between the two of them. And when you
No.
watch the film now, you get a real sense that, like, she, over the course of the brief time they spent together, almost becomes a surrogate version of the sister that he lost as a child.
Yeah, like when I watched it, like I didn't see a romantic interest when I watched it.
I never saw it.
I never saw that.
I never saw that myself.
Like if anything, that moment on the beach, like as a moment of romance, like was this is the most beautiful way I can spend my last moments, right? Like in a human connection. Whether that was romantic or not, who cares?
I mean, the
'cause
fact
it didn't
that-
get to go anywhere. It was two human beings who had just gone through a series of tragic events together, right? And a difficult mission are now sacrificed. They're done. They're dying. They see impending doom coming.
Yeah.
And they want to spend their last moments with each other. And about that interaction that I loved is that she, being relatively new to the rebellion, never wanting to be a part of it, and like experiencing tragedy her whole life, etc., but really like basically like living on the run her whole life by that point, she is looking at the blast from the Death Star coming, right? And with that, it's like she wants to see her success come to fruition, like her moment of triumph, basically, right? She's done something good after a whole life of hiding and being a petty criminal and all this other stuff. She's finally doing something big, and she gets to watch it. While Cassian is looking away, and he seems like he just wants to finally have peace.
Yeah. And
And-
and it comes back to that the scene between him and the Force healer, where she's vague about it, but she calls him a messenger.
Right?
He had delivered his message,
Yeah.
which was those plans.
Right.
And what's fascinating watching Rogue One after these 2 seasons of Andor is, like, the first time I watched it, the main character was obviously Jyn Erso.
Right.
Like, no question about it. The movie was about the role Jyn Erso played in getting the Death Star plans.
Yep. Because
She does
between her
not-
father and
Yeah.
Saw, like she's important.
She does not feel like the main character anymore.
No. It's not
It
a slight to her. She's the main. She's the main catalyst, and she's the most useful thing to the plot of Rogue One, as far as connecting with those two characters that she connects to.
and being an audience insert, because she needs to learn these things about the rebellion that we as viewers have not seen yet.
Right.
So she's our in. But it's amazing watching them back to back how things that, if you think about it without the context of Andor, the series, didn't necessarily make sense in Rogue One. Like when he finds Tivik at the beginning of the movie, on then the Rings of Kafrene. Why does, like, outside, like, without the context of the show, why does he know who Galen Erso is?
Right. When he
Like,
goes,
that
there's
doesn't-
some engineer named Urso. He goes, Galen Urso?
Yeah, like that doesn't make sense without the context of the show, but the context of the show just did not exist at that time.
Yeah. And I have questions about that. I do, because Gilroy didn't convince them to let him do Andor for another couple of years.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, it's weird.
Right?
It's weird how well
Yeah.
it all lines up.
And like maybe there were story elements or scenes that Gilroy wanted to write or started writing that would
And
have
also, like,
come into play, but he just didn't put it in the movie. And so because of that, pieces of what he wanted to craft in his head about Andor made it to the screen.
and he was mostly brought in towards the end of the production.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't there for, like, most of what you see in the movie is Gareth Edwards
Right.
and the script he was working with. The Gilroy worked on the very final draft of.
Yeah. Now Gilroy saved it. Like he made it into a good and cohesive movie.
Yeah, I'd be very curious to actually see completely what Gareth Edwards originally intended.
I would too.
Just as an alt universe kind of thing.
Right. I just
Like, especially all those shots that are in the first trailer that just don't exist in the movie at all.
Right.
Her in the fucking Death Trooper armor.
Yeah.
The fucking TIE fighter coming up at the platform. Like, none of that shit's in the fucking
You're right.
movie.
Yeah.
Like, some of the most iconic shots in the first teaser trailer are not in the film.
That's
Because the third act was basically completely reworked from the ground up. But just the third act.
right. Which also, by the way, the third act is the best part of that movie. Like,
Yeah. And I will say, what's interesting is how much the movie feels like 3 more episodes of the series after you watch the series.
yes. And
In terms of, like, each act is the same length as an episode on average. Each act has a beginning, middle, and end. Like, each act has a 3-act structure to it.
yep.
And a resolution of the 3-act
Right.
structure to it. Like, and you can even, like, look and say, like, oh, this is where that episode would end. Leading into the next episode. Like, it's... And none of that was intentional.
Yeah, Gilroy, was it intentional for Gilroy going backwards though? Did he watch Rogue One and say to himself, what if I?
Anyone who is interested in doing a prequel to any piece of media going forward should study this series.
Yes.
Because the attention to detail
Absolutely. Like,
is... And there are a couple of things where it's like passing lines where you're like, well, that's an interesting thing to say knowing what I know.
right.
Like when they're taken captive by Saw. And Andor says something like, it wasn't a situation he'd ever been in before.
Right.
It's like, well, we know that's not true.
Yeah.
We know that's not true.
Yeah, that's...
He'd been in a worse situation than that before.
We've been in worse situations
For
before.
like a year.
Yeah,
Almost a
like,
year.
But maybe he meant like captured by the rebellion. I don't know. But yeah, that was a little like... Or is it just him always maintaining cover?
That's possible too.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's in Rogue One, and it's like, wait, Andor's always maintain like that episode 5 of season 2, when he goes to Gorman the first time, like that.
Is the fashion designer.
Like, what's beautiful about that, like a couple things, but like the tradecraft in that one is really good. Like the spy tradecraft, and the resistance leader's daughter goes and meets him at the cafe outside of their scheduled plans, and he just dresses her down. He's like,
this is not how you do this. This is how you get killed.
This is sloppy.
Yeah.
Like I could be an ISB agent. I could be a bounty hunter. I could be some like snitch.
That interaction is why he can't be sold on aiding the Gormans.
Yes.
At that point, it's like, you're not ready for this. You don't know what you're doing.
And they were too eager the next time he met with him.
Yeah.
Like the other kid was like, we got this. He's like,
You don't got
you
this.
don't got this. And so, yeah, it's like that he can't be sold on the idea because he has just like had all of their tradecraft and all of their preset plans for how he was supposed to meet them blown away. They put fucking a tail on him when they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And it caused interest in him. And he's like, what is wrong with you idiots?
Fucking, what are you doing?
Like, yeah, well, we're not going to be told what to do, and that's your fucking problem.
Yeah.
Like, and that's from the get-go, every interaction that the wider rebellion had with them, somebody was always like, I'm not going to be told what to do. And they are always part of the reason they fucked up.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't take a blaster. No blasters. Cinta dies.
Yep.
Because your dumbass took a blaster when you were fucking told not to.
And, you know, the interesting thing is like, one, that guy that walks up to him and causes that whole situation, he later is more important in the rebellion in the Gorman massacre scene, which is fascinating. But two, I think he exemplifies that other problem with the Gorman population. They don't tell us what to do. They're so defiant.
For being French coded, they are aggressively American.
Right. But that was if you stumble upon a robbery or a hijacking,
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
No,
Right?
you didn't. I wouldn't. I would have never seen anything.
Yeah, but instead, they're like, we're being told to turn around, and it's an obvious shady ass thing happening, and he's just like, I'll do what I want.
Yeah.
Right? Like, was so aggressively like.
I like knowing that I am smart enough that if I were to ever accidentally happen upon like a robbery or a big drug deal or anything of that sort, I would just I did not
No.
see anything. It ain't my fucking business.
I didn't see anything. I'm going to walk in the most amiably away direction possible. I'm not going to continue walking into or through or past anything. But yeah, that motherfucker just like decides he wants to force his
fucking barrel his way through.
And of course that turns into an escalation. Like, yeah, the Gormans couldn't be trusted with their own revolution.
No.
Like, they were too arrogant, cocky, and like rich of a people. Like, I bet that the poorest I get the feeling that the poorest Gorman, because of the way the Gorman economy worked, right? And because there was like only like 800,000 people on the planet.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that I get the feeling that the poorest Gorman like lives a like lower middle class American lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, and not lower middle class, but like, they can go out to eat once or twice a week, and they can
It's
pay their rent
paycheck
fine.
to paycheck, but they're not uncomfortable.
Right.
Like they're not getting ahead.
Yeah.
They're not saving for later.
But
They're probably not going to
Gorman.
retire. But yeah,
Right. That was the poorest of those fucks, and then the rest of them were all like, oh yeah, I mean, my family's owned this thing for 19 generations.
Yeah.
And they can't be told what to do because they have too much fucking pride. And God, that caused so many problems, and the destruction of their own planet, really. Like, yeah, it was the Empire's fault, but they didn't make it any harder.
No.
They made it easier for them. Then we get to Mon Mothma's rescue, which...
That was fucking amazing.
Yeah. Like Andor's way of handling that situation and keeping her alive, like that was so good. Her acting was so great. Like, she watches the first 2 murders she's ever seen in her life, like back to back,
and, like, span of like 15 minutes.
And she is just fucking shaken by it. Like, the actress isn't just like, it's not like Leia, whose planet is destroyed, and then like she watches a bunch of people die, and she's just like, whatever, I'm gonna fire a blaster, hee hee. She's making jokes about how short stormtroopers are. Hours after her family is killed,
her entire planet is obliterated.
Yeah, including her father. Her stepdad, her adopted father, killed.
But like, I mean, what happened to Mon Mothma?
Tear.
It fucked her up so much. She got the worst haircut in the history of the goddamn galaxy.
My God,
that was the antithesis of a glow up right there. That like, fucking haircut is bad.
Genevieve is a beautiful, beautiful woman. Wow.
Yeah.
Like, stunning, absolutely gorgeous.
And she had to have the worst haircut ever because 1983 was the thing.
Yep. Thank you, George Lucas, 1983, for creating the Mon Mothma haircut.
That's the problem. In 1983, that was somehow not a bad haircut. Hindsight, man.
Here's the thing: is I didn't like those. Like, I didn't like the aesthetics of the 80s very much. Like,
no.
I didn't like the way people looked.
No.
Men with perms, bad, like curly, weird, fuzzy perms. It was bad. My stepfather came home with one when I was 5. I laid on the floor laughing hysterically.
My best friend growing up got his first perm right before he had his Little League photos taken.
No.
And like, so it's just this ball cap sitting on top of this giant fucking poodle fro of hair. Barely in frame, just all these like super tight curls.
That's amazing.
On his very, very white boy head.
Should I grow my hair out and get a perm? Should I do this?
I'm not gonna tell you no.
Let's get perms together.
I'm not getting a perm. I am not damaged. I love my hair too much to damage it chemically.
Fair enough. I'm just saying, if we get a perm together, it'd be fucking great. We could do this as a Halloween gag.
It's a shame. It's a shame perms are permanent. Because like, if you could do just like a day perm, just to see
a term.
Yeah. I straightened my hair once.
This fucking dog today. I swear to God, guys. I'm sorry.
She's been feisty lately. She was feisty yesterday at the bar too.
Look at her. Look at her. Baby, Stop it. Mwah. Yes.
This is every day.
This is my life now.
This is every day now.
I decided I wanted a puppy, and that was a mistake.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't. It's just extra
It
work.
was a commitment
A commitment.
and a full-time job.
Yeah. Wow. Boy, is
That's
she a lot of
you know
work.
what? You didn't have a full-time job. Now you do.
I did not. I had a part-time job. I mean, it was stressful all the time, but
I mean, it's stressful all the time, but it's not like 40 hours a week,
yeah. Now I have
52 weeks a year.
something to do.
Now it's 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
7 days a week, until you die.
Yeah, because I'll die before her.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. But this show is an absolute masterclass. I could talk about it for hours. How many hours have we been talking about it so far?
We're in an hour 20.
Hour and 20.
Hour and 20 minutes.
I'm not even tapped out, but we should get towards an end.
I do one thing before we go. I want to talk about who's in the running for my favorite Star Wars character now.
Who's that?
K2SO.
Oh, he was good.
The droid that I have always loved the droids in Star Wars. Mm-hmm. They've been cranky little bastards. They've been anxious gay boys. Mm-hmm. Bright fucking golden space twinks.
Homicidal maniacs.
Homicidal maniacs. I have not appreciated a droid as much as I appreciate K2SO.
Yeah.
Because he's just so fucking sarcastic about being a goddamn murder machine.
He is. Oh my god. So Rogue One, he was great. He was a lot of fun in Rogue One, but like, some of the better lines out of it
In the movie, are his.
Yeah, are his.
Because Alan Tudyk is a genius.
Yes, he's absolutely amazing, and he improvises a lot of things. Apparently, in Rogue One, when he slaps
Backhands, yeah.
like that was.
That's why, like, if you look really closely, you can see Diego Luna trying not to laugh.
Yes.
That's why he had to cover his face.
He's covering his face. He's like,
I don't want to do this take again.
that take was hilarious because he's actually laughing or trying not to laugh. He's like, but it looks like he's injured and shutting up because he was slapped in the face.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
But in particular, when they go to rescue Cleia,
yes.
after Luthen, after she has taken out Luthen, who had stabbed himself in the stomach. Mm-hmm.
In one of the best like confrontation scenes I've ever again the acting in that.
You know what I love and the subtlety of it. Like when he says when Miro asks if everything in the gallery is real, and he says
authentic.
there are only two items of like disputed
questionable provenance,
and it's like it's them.
Well, no, that's arguable, but no, I think she's genuine because she also came in uniform. She wore a hat, right? No, it's the knife and him. You know how he says it's the knife? Like, he wasn't lying.
It's sharp.
It was the knife and him. I get what you're saying. Like, I thought at first that he was talking about her, but she's showing up as her authentic self. Yeah, she's there under a ruse, right? But she's going to bring the reveal.
She's a terrible fake.
Yeah, and she came in uniform with her hat on, right?
Her stupid hat.
Yeah, like that apparently was actually a question as to whether like if they wanted her to go in uniform or not, and would she wear her hat, right? And she was like, of course she would. Like she would be.
She
arrogant
doesn't have
enough.
the sense not to.
It was the actress's idea.
Yeah, she doesn't have the sense not to.
That she was going to be that arrogant that she would walk in, right, like in uniform, and.
If she'd have walked in and just arrested him without grandstanding, she'd have just arrested him and nothing would have happened. Like, she would have gotten everything. She'd have... Her hubris and her arrogance and her need to, like, preen and gloat.
And finally tell the thing that, like, I've got you after all this time. And she busts out, like... And when she busts out that Star Path unit, it is fucking genius. Because, again, if Andor had just grabbed that thing in the beginning, none of this plot... would have continued. None of that would have happened. Fucking Luthen probably would have just killed Andor later. As a loose end, right?
Yeah.
Like, because all of the events that led up to that, right, wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Luthen would have used Andor once or twice and then killed him for seeing him, right?
Yeah.
That's how that would have ended, more than likely. But instead, we get all of these chains of events because of that one fucking Star Path unit that comes all the way full circle. And she confronts him. And And yeah, the acting between the two of them, like it's great. And he fucking offs himself, leading to Clea's fucking killing, like finishing the job
And
for him.
her infiltration of the hospital, spectacular.
Yes,
Spectacular. But when they go to rescue her, and K2 is just using Hirt as a human shield.
Yes, my God, his lines leading up to that, just like how bad of an idea it was.
Yeah.
He doesn't like. He's not like. And do you want to know what our odds are? They're very bad. Like,
Yeah,
like,
it's just
very
K2
bad.
is.
Like,
I hate knowing that we won't get more of him.
yes, because he dies the next 2 days later.
He dies on Scarif.
Yeah, he dies.
Of course,
on Scarif.
everybody on Scarif died on Scarif. So
He had one of the sadder deaths on Scarif too.
he went out like a boss, though.
He did, but it was one of the sadder deaths because he's just getting shot over and over and over again as he's slowing, like buying them time to get
Yeah.
away, and then he's like, "Go!" Like, "Oh no, not old buddy," which apparently that was the name on his trailer.
Yeah,
Was Old Pal.
yeah.
Well, Diego Luna's was Carlos. He was like, "Oh, you give the Mexican actor the nickname Carlos?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that'll really throw off the press as to
Yeah.
which trailer's mine." But yeah, K2SO's dialogue was great. The fact that line about him having been to Coruscant in Imperial Parade.
Yeah.
There's a couple things about that. Is one, he sounded really proud.
Yeah.
Like,
He was excited.
He was excited. He sounded really proud about having been in an Imperial Parade before. Two, he didn't have his memory wiped.
No. He never had his memory right.
Right. So his memory was... He was...
How many times do you think him and Andor were alone bickering with him? He's like, I could have killed you on Gorman.
Right? Like, yes, I remember when we met. I was chasing you down, planning to snap your neck and throw you through a wall.
Yeah.
If not for that damn bus. Because that's how I got him, is
Yeah.
he got hit by a random
Hit
fucking
by a bus.
And also the fact that he was the one that was doing the most murdering. It was the one
Yeah.
that was staring at Cyril.
Just that like fucking singular purpose. I must kill.
Right? Like, it's the one that was staring at Cyril, and then, like, by the markings, and then
Yeah.
when it goes out, it was the one that kicked the barricade and threw the girl.
Yeah.
Like, it was a happy murder machine.
Yeah.
Like, out of the K2 units, he
really loved his job. He just loves killing.
he was very good at it.
The fucking Crumbopolis Michael
Like,
of droids.
And then the way when they go to rescue Clea, like to retrieve her, and like Cassie and Clea are pinned down with what is his name? The friend.
Melshi.
With Melshi. The three of them are pinned down, and K2SO just murders his way through them all.
Just
like,
boom, boom.
Utilizing the fact that they're shocked. They're like, it's one of our droids. And
When he just slaps that one guy right off the fucking platform into oblivion.
Did we call reinforcements? No. Just no, and throws him off the platform with a backhand. Like,
It's so good.
oh,
It's so good.
And then uses here as this human. Like, he didn't need to. He just snapped his neck, and like it was like a horror film. Like, and then I have cleared a path. Like,
It reminds me, I heard this little anecdote from Alan Tudyk about when he met Anthony Daniels, who plays 3PO in all the films. And he was talking about how he was playing a droid in Rogue One. This was, 10, 12 years ago. And Anthony Daniels is like, are you doing motion capture, or are you in a suit? And Tudyk goes, I'm doing motion capture. And fucking Anthony Daniels was just like, you fucking bitch. Because he has to be in that stupid costume all the time that he fucking hates. He can barely move in.
Oh,
it's brutally hot.
Oh, and they were doing it in Tunisia too.
Yeah.
Like, there was so many episodes.
He's in the fucking desert.
like so much recording
Wrapped
in
in
Tunisia,
aluminum foil. Dying.
covered in fucking hot brass. Like,
Fucking bitch.
That's amazing.
And then apparently they became really good friends.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Alan Tudyk was talking about planning possibly on retiring. 'Cause he's
Yeah, I
done
heard
so much
you
voice
told me about
acting.
that. Yeah.
That he's like, I've done every kind of robot there is. I think I'm going out on a high note. I don't know if that's true or not because he's Anthony. He's.
I could see him taking a few years off entirely.
Yeah.
Like just taking off work entirely, and he's got enough of a back catalog that I'm sure he could get by, not being wildly, ostentatiously wealthy, but comfortable purely on residuals. Although streaming residuals suck and is something that SAG needs to probably do something about someday.
Which, if you are an Alan Tudyk fan, which
You should be.
you should be, I can't recommend enough. But Firefly,
Did you ever see Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
I did. He was good. In that.
I fucking love that movie.
Firefly is great.
Firefly's great. He's great in
it. Serenity is actually really solid. Like a good ending.
It was a good. It brought a lot of closure.
And Alan Tudyk has a sad death.
He's a leaf on the wind.
He's a leaf on the wind. Oh God.
There are multiple people I just say that to when I feel like I need to hurt them.
Yeah, fair.
I'll just say it, and they'll be like, "Man, fuck you.
Like,
You're an asshole." That's right.
Yeah.
Don't you fucking forget it.
I'm a leaf.
I'm a leaf on the wind.
That's not gonna come out in the wash. Too soon. All right. On that note, Andor is fucking awesome.
Watch it if you
Watch it.
haven't. You will be happier, and you'll be better off.
And it's also a great exploration of life under fascism. And with the politics of where we're going.
Yeah, that it was written and filmed and edited when everything we're living through was just a hypothetical.
Yeah.
It hits different and weird,
It
but
does.
in a good way, in an important way.
So join the resistance. Stockpile your weapons. Watch Andor. Get some ideas.
Yeah.
Get some good ideas.
And in the meantime, we will be back next week. Are you gnawing on my fucking leg? What are you doing? The bone is inside. That doesn't mean you get to chew on it yet.
And on that note, I am going to do something with this
I don't even know anymore.
monster child.
Yeah. You have good luck with that. You're the one that's got to take her home tonight.
Yep. This has been The Grift.
I'm Gonzo.
I'm Revanal.
Till next week.
This is Sigan. Leave the microphone alone.
Don't. Yeah. I mean, it's a sure. You could chew on it and it's not going anywhere, but please don't.
Please don't.
Till next week.
Good night.
Good night. Give us all your money.
Give us all your money. What is it with you?